This time for reals.
All right. Everything looks okay?
Okay.
Just gonna fucking...
How's my hair?
You look beautiful.
It's really my thing.
You look gorgeous.
Oh,
you look...
thank you.
Glenn, you look gorgeous.
Oh, fantastic.
You look beautiful.
I came from the stylist.
You're a beautiful man. Stop it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That's a pretty solid. This is what you're in for the next couple hours, kids.
Here's how I wanted to... No, I'm not going to do that to you. Oh, that's fucking funny. Here, let me just do this and make sure I got everything going. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I like how Rogan says the great and powerful. Like, it makes sense. Like, it works. The great and powerful. But I can't say that because that's Joe Rogan's thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The versatile. You know what I will do is I'll steal one from Mitch Hedberg.
Oh, good.
You remember that Mitch Hedberg joke when he's like, people use awesome too much, so I'm going to use the same thing, but I'm going to say it. I'm going to use whatever, blah, blah. And he's like, all-encompassingly. I don't remember the bit. I'm not trying to do Mitch Hedberg bits on the podcast, but
I remember Carlin had a bit where he was like tired of saying fine. He's like, fine, fine, I'm fine.
I think I remember.
So when
that
people
bit.
ask me, how are you? I say, moderately neato. I'm like, fuck, I should start saying that more often when I encounter people.
The amazing, the versatile, the all-encompassing Glen Wadie.
Thank you.
Grand Machine.
Yep. Grand Machine.
Cold Colors.
A long time ago.
And I got to tell you, man, I'm actually super pumped to have you on the podcast. We were talking beforehand. You said you were like, you said, I've been racking my brain trying to figure out if we've just played shows together and I don't remember, or if we've never played shows together and I don't know why.
Yeah, it's one of the two. I was like, well, obviously it's either we've played shows together or we haven't. That's pretty much goes without saying, but I was thinking about it on the way over here. I was like, so we've either played like a dozen shows together and it never clicked for me, or like I don't remember doing them, which is entirely possible, or we've never played any shows together and I have no fucking idea why.
So there's a very small chance we did play a show or two together with one of our several different bands that we were both in.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it is most likely we didn't play any shows together because I don't remember playing any shows together either. But I've always been a huge fan of yours because
thanks.
you played guitar in, I don't remember, I swear I thought it was guitar. I thought you started on guitar. Hold on, don't correct me yet.
Okay.
If I'm wrong here, because I thought the first band I seen you in, you were a guitar player. And then the second band I seen you in, all of a sudden you were a drummer. That could have been reversed. But I mean, you were a bitchin' guitar player. You were a good vocalist when you sang and did backup vocals or even lead vocals in one band, I thought.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden I saw you on the drums and I was like, this dude is a bitchin' ass drummer. And you had this great vibe. You had this huge smile that lit up the stage. Like, you had this huge personality from behind the kit. And
that's always been how I've been able to trick people into thinking I'm a pretty good drummer, is just by selling it.
Me too.
You know, like,
that's the secret to the sauce.
Yeah, it's not like the technical prowess. It's like, in general, like I like prog rock, you know,
sure.
And I love Opeth, and I saw Opeth like 4 times, and the 4th time I saw Opeth, I was so fucking bored because they stood there and played the songs perfectly and executed them exceptionally, and it was beautiful and it was wonderful. But it was like, dude, I can do this at home.
Right.
So for me, it was always like, because I grew up. I mean, I turned on MTV when I was a kid, and that's what got me going into doing music, was like seeing all those bands and going like, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to be the guy who like twirls his sticks and flicks his hair around and
fuck yeah, dude,
and is really cool. And I never got the stick twirling thing figured out,
because that's what you pay for when you go to see a concert. Otherwise,
think so.
If you're just going to stand there and play and you're going to be boring as fuck, I can sit home and you play it exactly like it is on record.
Right.
And it sounds perfect. Cool, but also I could have done that at home for way cheaper.
Yeah.
I'm here for a visual experience as well.
Yeah, you've done an excellent job of replicating something, which is a very difficult task, I would say. you know, to make something sound exactly the way it did on the record, especially if you're not playing, you know, 1-4-5, 4-4 all the time.
Well, let me ask you that. So how do you guys have that philosophy? Because I run under the school, or call it a religion, if you will, of we write our music and then we try to capture that sound on record and not the other way around. How do you feel about that?
That's 100% what we've done on every Grand Machine album that I've been a part of.
Just a little bit. There you go.
Yeah, every Grand Machine album
That way I can see your face.
been a part of is... So I actually played drums in the Grand Machine before I sang and played guitar in the Grand Machine.
Okay. And then what were you in Cold Colors?
I played drums. I played drums in Cold Colors. I had a band called the Grant Brothers Moving Company for quite a while, which was basically like my attempt to do like Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, mixed with like alt country style rock and roll, which is like singer-songwriter but louder. And then I actually played bass in Second Class Citizen for a little while too.
I heard of that band.
That was fun. That was weird. Actually, like playing bass kind of taught me how to play guitar a little better.
If you were in Secondhand Citizen, or is it Second Class Citizen? Second Class Citizen. I know for a fact we played a show together then.
Okay.
And it was at the garage, and it was one of my very first bands, very first handful of shows. I was in a band called 7 Months of Nothing.
Okay.
Early 2000s.
I remember that band name.
Yeah, we were terrible.
That was the whole...
Everybody knew about us, and we were terrible.
That was the era where we all ran around like knowing each other's bands and going to each other. Like that felt like what you were supposed to do on a Friday night. Was you were supposed to go to, in particular with us when I was in Cold Colors, we were always at Urban Wildlife. Like, who's playing? Who cares? Like everybody in the, I'm going to do the finger quotes thing, scene was going to be there hanging out, and you were going to see somebody's band. And to be honest, you spent a lot of time like shaking hands with people saying great show, and then getting in your car with somebody else going like, what the fuck did I just...
Yeah.
You know,
but you're there to support.
Yeah.
And it worked. It really did work, because like when you were a not so great band and then a cool band showed up to check your show out, people would have a buzz around town. People would be like, oh, fucking so-and-so came, fucking, I seen them over at this band show. Like, fuck, man. Like, I guess you got to go to that show too, because like you never know who you're going to meet running into so-and-so. You know what I mean? Like, so it worked. The formula worked, and we had like a unified strategy with that. We would show up, like you said, on a Friday night. What do you do on a Friday night? Let's go to a show, because even if we don't have something to promote on our own, we're going to go support our buddies. We're going to go check out one of the other local bands.
Right, which is of course left me at the phase now in my life where I'm so burnt out that I don't even want to go see bands that I want to go see anymore.
I was just talking about that with Dusty on the podcast. Like, no offense, if you guys are opening for me in my band and I'm not up front rocking out, no offense. I've done it too many times. I'm burnt out.
Yep.
I may not even be there yet, and it's not because I don't respect you. It's because I showed up for sound check, and I can't handle sitting in a loud bar for 4, 5, 6 hours before I fucking play.
Right.
So I'm either hanging outside trying to chill, keep my blood pressure low. Like, you know, I don't want to metaphorically blow my wad. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's the same thing with me, man. Like, especially if we're the middle band on a bill, like the chances of me seeing your band are minimal. Not that I'm not paying attention.
It would have been more common back then, but not so much anymore.
Yeah, because now it's like, okay, cool. Well, I don't want to blow my fucking ears out, you know, before I have to get up there and sing. Like, yeah, I'm probably going to sit outside and smoke way too many cigarettes, but that is what it is. And then when you get done and the next band goes on, you're like, fuck, I want not to have my, like, because we're the band that, we don't play metal or anything, but like we're the band that sound guys are always like, so you can dial that back to about half the volume.
You're talking about the Grand Machine right now?
Like,
dude, it's interesting because when I first heard you guys, that first record on iTunes, it's clearly your oldest record. It sounds like it's your oldest record.
The self-titled one?
Yes.
Yep. I'm not on that record.
It almost sounds like a little bit of the Hold Steady.
I can
see that. But also
that.
kind of like punk rocky, and like there's some other shit in there too. And now I was just listening to, I think it's this one. It's either this one or it's the CD you gave me.
Yeah.
That's
Another
what it
round.
is. I knew that was the name of it too. And I have this thing where like I think I remember the right name sometimes of a person or an album or a song, and I'm so afraid I'm going to say the wrong thing that I'm like, fuck, what's your name again? And
I do that. I love introducing my wife to people.
And then they tell you your name, and I'm like, fuck, I knew that. But I was afraid that wasn't the right one. So I was psyched out. The same thing, another round. I was listening to one of these, and it's got almost more, still very punky, still upbeat, still fun, still rock and roll in its essence. But it's almost got like a Soul Asylum vibe to it.
I've heard that. There was actually a review. There was actually a review in a British rock magazine of another round where they clearly gave I mean, it was a favorable review, but this will give you some insight into what kind of person I am too. It was a favorable review, but they clearly gave it to a dude whose like bread and butter is like the whole Minneapolis Husker Du Replacements Soul Asylum kind of sound. And so he kind of spent the entire review comparing us to those albums, which is not like, it's partly with these last two records. I mean, it's partly by design. We had Terry Katzman produced both of these albums, and he had worked with Husker Du. He had worked with the Replacements. He was a sound guy. Back in the day, he had connections to all these. He produced "Lick" by the Lemonheads too, which was really cool for us. Unfortunately, he passed away back last October, I want to say. Anyway, so we had the whole like, there's a reason we would be connected to Husker and Soul Asylum and all those things out there, but that's not really what we're trying to sound like at the same time.
Sure.
So this whole review is a lot of comparisons to like, how are we similar or dissimilar from Soul Asylum and those bands that he was.
So it wasn't even necessarily a review, but an elaborate description.
A little bit, yeah. And he said he said mostly favorable things about the record. I think, but the one thing he said was like, Glen Wadie's lyrics aren't as fuck. I wish I could remember exactly what he said. But basically, it boiled down to like the way I read it was like, you're not as smart as Dave Pirner. Like you're not as clever.
Anyone?
You're not as clever lyrically as Dave Pirner.
Is anyone?
Like, I don't think
he's
so.
one of the most clever lyricists of all time. Like, if you guys don't know who we're talking about, check out Soul Asylum. They're a huge Minneapolis band.
But that's the only thing in an entirely favorable review. The only thing that I read and took away from it was like, you're not as fucking smart as Dave Pirner.
That's why you shouldn't read reviews.
No,
man.
you never.
It's like reading YouTube comments, dude.
So yeah, we've definitely heard the Soul Asylum, and it's not without.
So are you the lead singer
of
this band?
Yep.
And so
on the two most recent records, so
right? Okay.
4 Grand Machine albums. The self-titled one, I wasn't in the band. On the second one, Delusions of Grandeur, I actually played drums.
See, and this is why I'm so fucking confused, dude. Because I've seen you drum for the Grand Machine.
Yeah,
that must have been the era. Because I would have sworn up and down you were the drummer of this band right now.
Right.
Well, and don't get me wrong. We just talked about how we never see each other live.
Right.
Even if we play on the same show. We just got done going through all that. But also, COVID has been kicking our asses since, I mean, here's the thing, is the local scene in Minneapolis, the local industry, whatever you want to call it, like, local shows are typically packed over the winter. But we're fucking married now.
Right.
Do you have kids?
No, I don't.
Okay, neither do I, but we're married now. I own my own home. I'm remodeling my home. I was getting ready to start. I got so many fucking things going on. It's like, I'm not going out every Friday night to just see bands. I have to make that a point more now because I want to get more fucking current and understanding what's going on locally here, because I talk a lot of shit on this podcast. I want to make sure that if there's some good shit going on, I can throw some props to those people too.
No, I get it, because that's what happened. Because obviously too, we were just talking about like the scene and the unified whatever it was. Like we all went to each other's shows. We all talked shit about each other behind each other's backs. Like that's how the scene. That's how I remember.
Yep.
The scene that.
And I think that's why we didn't play more shows. Is honestly fucking. I don't even remember his name, and we don't even need to name his name because there's no reason to put anybody on blast. But somebody in Cold Colors. Not the whole band. There was someone in that band that I know for a fact despised me and probably still despises me to this day.
It could have been me for all I
know.
know.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. But we can just move past that. But that to go back and just kind of answer your original question was like, did we play a lot and just don't remember, or did we never play and then why? And I'm telling you, like, we may have played a couple here and there that squeaked through.
Yep.
But it was intentional, and it wasn't coming from me.
Let's see.
And it's cool. There's no animosity for it because, like, I've said it on the podcast 100 times. I made that fucking bed, dude, and I've been laying in it ever since.
Yeah, yeah, and I could probably blow a couple hours getting myself into trouble saying, saying things about that era of that band and my life.
I think you nailed it though, man. Like, without getting into nitty gritty details, because again, we don't need to like talk shit now, but like that's what our scene was. Right. So we're not going to name names and point out like a band because we're still buddies with all these people. But anybody watching this, they're like, yeah, please don't fucking name me right now. And they also know exactly what we're talking about, which is like, it's a lot what I hear about like in the LA comedy scene right now with everybody's doing podcasts and competing for specials and shit, and it's like everybody's supporting each other and going on their podcasts. And then as soon as they're not on the podcast, they're like talking a bunch of shit about each other.
Right.
And it's like, some of it's because they're buddies and that's what you do. You talk shit about your buddies. Like, it's in a fun way, in a positive way, the razzing, the hazing. And then some of it's because you're fucking petty and you're backstabbing your alleged friend and you're just simply talking shit behind his back. Like, it's all of it. It's all of it. Some of it's just who we are, and some of it's because we're fucking nutty people, man. Yep. Musicians are fucking wild, dude.
Well, and when, once I started playing in, once I left the kind of metal scene and started playing in more like rock and roll oriented bands, it was very different. And I was like very relieved at first to not be putting up a front anymore. Like, there wasn't an image that went along with, there wasn't an attitude that went along with Grand Machine or with the Grant Brothers Moving Company or with, I'm sure there was, but it was versus being metal,
right?
Like, and you had to decide which side of metal you were on, and like, are we gonna, we're gonna go be true metal, or we're new metal, or we're this and that and the other metal, and all that kind of shit that pops up, and you don't want to be viewed as new metal because you're true metal, but you want to get people to come to your shows, so you'll play with this band because they're popular, but they're almost new metal, and this, all that kind of shit that would pop up where
it's exhausting.
Yeah, it's very exhausting, and it got to a point where it was like, okay, cool, like, you tell me where we're going, and I will show up there, and I will, I will play the drums, or I will play the bass, or I will play the guitar and sing and do my thing, and it got to be, your image was more just you, going out there. And of course, if you're playing in a rock and roll band, if you're playing in a metal band, if you're playing in any kind of band, you're a character to some extent. Sure. We're not all Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons.
Right.
We haven't written, we
don't all put on the makeup. It's not all about the theatrics. Yeah.
No, but it's, there's things that I say as part of like the Grand Machine shtick. That this is my character. This is what I do when I'm on stage. I'm shooting for some sort of weird rock and roll tent revival routine,
Gotcha.
But because you don't just want. I always hated it when I'd go see bands and they're like, "Hey Jeff, how you doing?" Like, fuck you. You're on stage. Like, I don't care if you know Jeff. I don't care if Jeff's mom loaned you $20 last night. I don't care if you need to get it back. Like, just fucking say hi to Jeff after the show.
You know what I always did in those spots? Because granted, I was always a singer on stage or a drummer, right? So as a drummer, you do nothing, especially because I can't see for shit. So if I'm wearing glasses that night, now I really can't see for shit because I take my glasses off when I drum. If I'm wearing contacts, my fucking same thing. Like, I'm so focused on what I'm doing. Like, even if I'm not looking at my drums and looking out into the crowd, like, I'm vibing. I'm not making eye contact and picking people out unless somebody stands out. Like every once in a while, my uncle will show up and he just fucking sticks out like a sore thumb. You know what I mean? If he's in the front, he's just a big dude. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh shit, there's so-and-so. And sometimes I'll catch one of my buddies like coming up and like sneaking through and catching an eye line with me to make eye contact, or I give him a little smile and a nod. But when I was a singer, I'd see those people, I'd give them a nod, I'd point to them, make eye contact, like acknowledge them, and then if they were close enough, I'd give them a fist pump. But I also didn't play guitar while I was doing this, so I would just keep going and doing my job. But I always thought that was really cool, because I wanted to give those people like a heads up and acknowledge them for being there. And anytime I would recognize anybody, I'd be like, I remember you. you know, and it was cool because it wasn't always a buddy. Like it turned into like reoccurring and actual real fans. And then they were validated. They're like, oh, fucking this guy remembers me. Like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking just locally, like out of town and shit too. So I don't know. It is what it is. But yeah, if you shouldn't be like having conversations with your buddies and shit.
Right.
Like we're up here to fucking, like I kind of said, like at least pretend to give a shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like do something to make it understood that you respect the fact that people have paid to come see you play tonight.
Right. Or at the very least that they've left it, because that's the thing about being, you know, about comparing the scene that we grew up into the scene now.
Keep that about
oh yeah,
about
sure.
a fist from your face.
The you know, the difference between that scene then and the scene now has more to do with how old we are than anything else. We haven't all lost, like,
right.
There's still a fucking scene like that full of 22-year-old kids somewhere. You know, somebody's sucking Jägermeister out of somebody else's butthole at some show somewhere, you know, but it's not us anymore. We have fucking, you know, we have wives and houses and things that prevent us from doing that, you know.
Yep.
And
priorities is what it
and
really
God
is
help
to.
you, you know, God, I don't know, either God help you or God bless you if you don't. I don't know what.
I mean, if you're in your mid 30s to mid 40s and you're still out there partying, drinking Jägermeister out of someone's butthole,
yeah,
you better be super fucking successful at whatever it is that you set out to do. Because if you're just another dude in a scene, mediocre, it's no longer cool at our age.
Right.
It's now pathetic.
Yeah.
Like, get some dignity, man.
Yeah, you hit there's a certain wall, I think, that you hit somewhere where you're like, yeah, this isn't I don't think this is for me anymore, you know. But I don't know what the point of that was.
Well, we were just talking how we got how we just kind of came into the scene, and like we were just kind of dovetailing and wrapping up how we haven't played a ton of shows together.
Oh yeah,
how the scene was, and like I said, we were just kind of dovetailing out of that. Because yeah, I got a bunch of questions for you, dude. Is like, so you. Remind me again. So you played drums and guitar in Cold Colors?
No, I just played drums in Cold Colors.
Okay. Because I'm getting even more confused as you explain this to me, because in multiple bands you played multiple instruments. Now I understand why people get confused with me. Right. They're like, wait, did you play guitar or drums in that band? I'm like, you guys, I play 2 fucking instruments, and I've never played guitar on stage, meaning I either sang or... but no, I get it now, because it's the same thing, but you're worse because you played multiple instruments in multiple bands.
Well, dude, you want to make it worse. When I joined
the same band,
when I joined the Grand Machine, we had stage names.
I
don't ask me why. But
that's too gimmicky. Come on.
Like, one day we dropped it because I realized, like, people who I knew were following, like, my links to our Facebook page to see the band, and would see a picture of me, but then, like, read the band names and see somebody else's, and they were like, aren't you in this fucking band? That guy looks exactly like you, and you're the one linking to this. So one day we were like, okay, we got enough, like,
that's hilarious.
We got enough fucking confusion having the E in grande machine. We don't need, like, stage names to complicate it even more than that. So we kind of dropped that bit. But yeah, I've been all over the map, man. Like, but it was always drums and Cold Colors.
So how did you get into Cold Colors? Because you weren't a founding member, if I remember correctly.
No, Cold Colors had been, like...
I'm not even sure there any founding members exist at all. There's like that band. I think that band always existed in some form. And then people just randomly joined it one day.
That's sort of true.
No one founded it.
That's sort of true. No, I think it's...
I'm joking, but it seemed like that band had been around for 30 or 40 years before I entered the scene, and I think that band is still around to this day, isn't it?
It is, to some, as far as I know.
They're actually good. I'm mocking them, but I'm only mocking them in jest, in fun, because they were actually a very good band, both before, during, and after you were in that band.
Cool.
Because I did see you guys a ton.
Yeah, we were all over the place.
We were one of the best
kind of hard
bands
to
in town for a while.
We were hard to avoid for a while.
Did you guys ever headline First Ave?
Once.
once?
Once, yeah. It was a Tuesday night, and it was us, Filthy Divine, In the Morning, and Scotty G's Soul Sonic Orchestra.
Yes, that is a great band name, Scotty
something.
G. Shout out to Scotty G.
I've still got the like comp tickets somewhere.
That's fucking
like
sick,
at least
dude.
a few of them, because like how the fuck are you not gonna do? Like I played First Avenue in the main room. Like that's
right.
If you're not from Minneapolis, St. Paul, then maybe that's not a big deal to you at all.
Right.
But if you are, that's kind of
First Ave is still
the pinnacle,
a
right?
world famous. Yeah, and not only that, but the reason we bring it up and the reason it's significant to us is because everyone's heard of the whiskey a go-go. I think.
Yep, the whiskey a go-go.
We all just call it the whiskey, but it's the whiskey a go-go in L.A. And once you headline the whiskey, you're like, it's a validation. It's not even just a stepping stone or a mile marker, but it's a milestone. It's a real achievement because it validates you in a way that there. I mean, how many clubs are there? You said CBGB's, the whiskey, First Ave. Is that it in the entire country?
Yeah, I mean, depending on who you are and what scene you cover, like I obviously, like you've brought up the punk rock thing with Grand Machine a bunch. So, like Max's Kansas City is another like New York thing, but nobody walks around in a Max's Kansas City shirt. People walk around in CBGB shirts all the time.
Yep.
Not even because they know what the fuck it is either. It's just like a weird fashion statement.
Sure.
Of just like, you can find that at Abercrombie and Fitch. Right. Now. It's just like, oh, cool. Like, you pair this with our fucking polo and you'll look super sexy for summertime fun.
I mean, we got three rooms where like it still to this day means something when you headline that room.
Yeah. Like
fans, industry people, other bands, everybody goes, oh, so-and-so just headlined this club.
Well, and
this means I need to check them out. Wow.
I remember playing that, and it was a Tuesday night, and we headlined, so we were on at midnight or whatever.
Really?
And
I thought they did their headliners at like 10.
It was even at a relatively young age, it was late. I had friends who had jobs, but I couldn't believe how many people, and I'm not trying to say it was sold out by any stretch of the imagination, but like I couldn't believe how many people were turning up on a Tuesday night to see us play late. That was never going to happen. And I would say, what the fuck are you doing here? Don't you have work in the morning? Because
they're like, yeah, but it's First
and they're like,
Avenue.
You're headlining First Avenue. Like,
yeah,
I can't miss you headlining First Avenue.
Yeah, because people don't understand locally here, again, just to reiterate, like whether it's a national band that's coming through on a tour or it's a local band, like headlining First Avenue is one of the last things you do before you blow up. If you're going to blow up, it's like, and it can just be once. Like you could be touring the country, headlining 1,500 person arenas, all over venues. God, why can't I think of the fucking word? Clubs. I guess you could call it. First Avenue is I guess a club.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a theater.
No. No, it's not comfortable enough to be a theater.
Well, and I'm also thinking capacity too, because they rule it.
Wise.
They break it down in like theaters are like, I think it's. Like,
I suppose.
Anyway, either way, this is all irrelevant. My point is like some people sometimes, if you're gonna blow up, you headline First Avenue, you pop up on a bunch of people's radar, and that's your launching pad.
Well,
Same
and
thing
that's
with the whiskey, all those other things. There just isn't that many rooms that still do that to this day. And it doesn't matter if you're a national band coming through on tour or you're a local band popping up your way. People want to remember. They want to know. Here in town, I want to be able to say, I saw that band headline First Avenue for their first show. And I was at that show before they got famous. It's just this nostalgia thing. It's this cool way that you can like be hip and ahead of the curve, and it's never gone away.
Well, and that's
gone away.
That's how you knew whatever like indie band you were into. And I don't mean indie like style of music. I mean like actual independent bands, whether it be metal or country or rock or whatever it was. That's how you knew that they were taking that band that you liked was taking the next step. Was that you'd see their touring schedule and they'd be at the 400 bar and you'd be like, fuck, I should check that out. And then like you either would or you wouldn't. But the next time the tour came around, it was at First Avenue. You were like, I should have seen him at the 400 bar, man.
Right.
All right.
Yep.
But then you were like, I have to see him at First Ave because next time it's going to be the Roy Wilkins. You know, like next time they're going to be in the mini arena.
Or fucking Muse. I
Yeah.
remember Muse came through, headlined First Avenue. I believe it was almost. I think it was 3 times in 1 year. They came through and headlined First Avenue because they were just touring relentlessly. I might be making that up. Maybe it was only twice in 1 year, but I remember, or maybe it was like the second time they came through, they played 2 nights in a row and sold both. Maybe it was one of those things. Maybe they only did that once and they sold out 3 nights in a row. I don't fucking remember, but I swear something tells me it was 3 times in a single year. The next time they came to town, they sold out Target Center. They skipped all those other things and went straight to, but they didn't just play. I'm saying this, and I'm making a big deal out of this petty little detail because I don't think they just played First Ave once, is what I'm getting at.
Right.
And it could have been 1 year, it could have been 3 years, but it was a few times that they came through on that level, but they kept coming through and hitting First Avenue. And then, like I said, the very next time they came through town, they sold out First Target Center. And I think they sold that out for like 2 or 3 nights too, like a Metallica.
Yeah.
They just exploded. And all I'm saying is we have a bunch of great venues in town, but that one really does mean something.
Yeah, it absolutely
to everybody.
does.
So that's why I asked, like, because that's one of the only things I never did in this town. Never headlined First Avenue, never even played First Avenue. And again, people are like, how is that even possible? I was literally just wrong place, wrong band, wrong time. Like, there was bands I joined that played First Avenue right before I got in it. There was bands that played First Avenue right after I left. It's just one of those things where it's still also hard to do.
Right.
That's the other thing is it's not just like, oh, you're good, you play First Avenue. It's not how that works. Like, you still have to be asked.
Yeah.
Like, there's very few people who have the ability to make a phone call and book that room.
Yeah, that's not a like, let's just walk in and make this happen. You know, here we go. I feel like playing a gig. Let's do it at First Ave tonight.
Yeah.
Unless you are somebody rather important to the music scene.
Yeah,
or to the people who own First Avenue.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, or at least you make the people at First Ave a lot of money.
Yeah,
that's what,
exactly.
Which really boils down to, can you get people to come? Like,
which is fair, right?
I'm gonna grab a do.
Yeah, it's totally fair because there's, you know, when I was in Cold Colors, one of the biggest things that bars liked about us was that we brought people. Not that we would bring the most people, but we brought people who would kick back and buy some drinks. You know, that was what was going to happen.
Us too.
You know?
Yeah.
And we would get told that, you know, like, you guys bring a drinking crowd into this place, and that's what we want. And that's what they should want. Like, that's what you should want out of booking a show for a band.
We heard the same thing. It was, you guys draw the same exact amount of people, but we make triple the money when you guys play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We'll have you back anytime.
Yeah, I don't know if that was actually that
was more than one of my bands too, which is hilarious because I was never that. I mean, I drink on the podcast, but I'm just usually drinking beers. Right?
Yeah.
Every once in a while, if I need to loosen up a guest, we'll do some shots of whiskey.
Sure.
But I'm just having beers. I got a real high metabolism. I piss a couple times. Like I got a nice buzz by the end of the podcast. I'm not shit-faced.
Right.
You know what I mean? And now, granted, I do think it's negatively impacting my interviewing skills. So I'm going to try to drink less on the podcast. But sometimes that's what the guest wants to do. So I'm going to drink beer with my guests.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
And that means, like, strap in, guys, because that's not going to be the best podcast, you know?
Right.
The best podcast for me when I'm at my best is when I'm not drinking. Maybe I shouldn't be drinking Mountain Dew either because it's, you know, too much caffeine. You know,
no, I think I told you about that when we got, because
it might be good for you. I'm saying it may be bad for me.
I don't know if it is. Like, I quit drinking about a little over 2 months ago now. And so I
chain smoke on these fucking podcasts.
Oh God, I knew I was going to do that. As soon as I saw that, like, I watched another one, I was like, oh, good, we're smoking in the, like,
yeah,
fuck, I'm going through a whole pack tonight.
I already clean the sheets and shit, or the curtains, and then I fucking wipe everything down. I switch these out.
Yeah.
It
does smell, you know, like lemon fresh. That's nice. It's a good.
You must have got the super clean
one. It's a good
then.
vibe.
Mine smells like nothing.
It's just nothing.
It's either that or the seasonal allergies.
It smells like
my fucking left nostril's been clogged up for like 3 days.
It smells like the antithesis of things. When I was playing drums in Grand Machine,
Oh,
we
no,
got
no, no. That's what we were talking about. Is I asked you how you got into cold colors.
how I got
That's
into
where
cold
this
colors.
whole
That's
thing
right.
started. That's how this whole thing started.
That's right. I used to work at Root Cellar Records.
Oh, with Earl Root.
Yep. And I actually, just before I was in Cold Colors, I played for a minute.
How'd you get that deal? Were you just a kid in the neighborhood?
Yeah, I wasn't in the neighborhood, but I was just a kid who went in there all the time. And one day there were job applications, and I was like, "Fucking A, I'm filling this out."
Cool.
And I didn't like. I was like delivering pizzas for Domino's, so like I wasn't kicking around like dying to get this gig. But like one day the phone rang, and I didn't recognize it. And it's like hello, and it was, "Hey, Glen." Yeah. Hey, it's Earl Root. Fucking really? Like, because I looked up to this guy, like,
Sure.
for real. Like, I would go to the store.
For people that don't know, explain to the listeners who Earl Root was.
Yeah, so there was a record store on Snelling Avenue called Root Cellar Records, and Earl was the owner and proprietor of this joint, but he was also a pretty huge figurehead of Minneapolis and St. Paul metal and metal in general. And he had a radio show. The show still runs to this day, The Root of All Evil on KFAI. But that was his radio show, and he would play 5 hours of obscure Scandinavian metal. And so I would go out to the store, and like I was from
do local bands too.
Yeah. And I grew up in the suburbs, man. Like I didn't know cool things existed.
Right.
Like I went to Best Buy to see if they had the new Sepultura album.
Right.
You know, and then I would buy magazines and read about really out there, but Sepultura was pretty mainstream compared to My Dying Bride and stuff like that. And then one day I found out there was a record store in St. Paul that actually sold all that stuff. And that's how I would start going there all the time, and I would buy vinyl and I would buy CDs, and I like looked up to all the guys who worked in the record store, but Earl was just like the coolest. It was like, so anyway, he's on my phone.
He was a really cool guy too.
He's on my phone one day and he's like, "Are you you're still interested in maybe working out here at the record store?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I can be there in 10 minutes." Which is probably not the right way to go about it. Like I've learned now to show a little restraint in accepting a job offer, but
probably worked in your favor back then.
But I wound up taking the gig out there, and I'm not going to say it was a high-paying gig, but, we had a lot of fun, and I got a lot of records, and I wound up playing drums for a little while in the band that he was starting called God Awful. And this was before they did any gigs or anything like that. I was a pretty okay drummer, and they found a drummer who would be better for them. Sure. Because he could like read and write charts and stuff like that, and he knew what was going on. And that was, to me, I'm way more of like a 4 on the floor, let's get this over with, Phil Rudd sort of let's rock out kind of drum style. So it was around that time that, and like I said, I was listening to like Anathema, My Dying Bride, Paradise Lost, all these like British doom bands was kind of my bread and butter at the time, like depressing, sad bastard metal.
Sure.
And Brian from Cold Colors was trying to put together a band, because Cold Colors had started as basically as like a solo recording project for him.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yep. And then he had put together a band to record the first album, and then he had put together a slightly different version of that band to play shows, and then they had broken up. And I don't even remember. I probably knew the story behind that, but I certainly don't remember it anymore. And so he was trying to recruit people to get going. And funny enough, like 2 of the guys I worked with at Root Cellar, AJ and Tom Croxton, who was the drummer in Impaler and is the drummer for Hex Vortices now.
Yeah.
He like the 2 of them were basically like trying to fix me and Brian up, like you would with 2 people who should be dating each other. They were like, you two sad bastards and your like fucking Paradise Lost records need to get together and make a record, because I don't know why you were trying to play like thrash metal with Earl, and I don't know why you're not, but you guys should do this. And so after a long courting process, we wound up like getting together and jamming. And I had a friend who had played bass in a band I was in high school, and I was like, dude, you got to get on board with this. We're trying to do the same things as like Anathema, Paradise Lost, My Dying Bride kind of stuff. And he was like, okay, cool. So that was how we kicked off that version of Cold Colors. And then eventually it became like, let's get another guitar player so we can thicken up the sound. And then it was, let's get a keyboard player so we can thicken up the sound and get some of that atmosphere and stuff going on.
Rail?
Yep. John Rail played keyboards.
He was a sweetheart. I loved that guy.
Yeah.
He just kind of disappeared. I mean, I still see him online and shit. It's not like he's like not alive, but he was in Cold Colors, and then I've never seen him in another band.
I think he was back in Cold Colors at some point. I'd be lying if I said I've kept like close tabs on what goes on with Cold Colors.
I've just never seen Rail in another band.
I don't think I don't know that
I never seen him in a band before or after Cold Colors. I think you're right. I think he did 2 stints in Cold Colors.
Yeah,
he might even still be in the band now.
He was in a band called Century 19. That I remember. And he used to do like part of the theatrical stuff with Impaler too. And he would dress up and run around.
Okay.
And,
So I'm wrong.
trying to remember what his fucking... He didn't play any instruments, but he'd run around and spit blood. Crisis Control, I think is what he was called.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it sort of evolved, and then there was a day where it came to that. You know, it's dragging up old drama is a bad idea, but like it just came to a point where it was like, okay, we need to do something different we need a different guitar player and a different bass player, and we did that, and we kept playing, and like we started this sort of, I would say like that lineup sort of lost momentum and lost focus.
Sure.
To some extent, which I think is accurate. I can't speak for any of the other guys who were there at the time, but you know, it just wound up being a thing where Brian wanted to take it in a different direction and do it on his own, and as well, he has a right to. It's his band. So it wound up being he's been able to do what he wants to do with it since then, which is good. And they've made some. I've listened to some of the stuff they've done. I know some of it's pretty cool.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So basically, you're rocking Cold Colors for a while, and then what do you do directly after Cold Colors? Do you go directly into the Grand Machine, or is there a band in between then that I don't know about?
I was even while I was in Cold Colors, I played guitar, not for that band, but I played acoustic guitar, and I would do like singer-songwriter-y shit.
Yeah, and I fucking remember this. This is what I was talking about. And okay, so this is all coming back into focus. So I had seen you drumming for Cold Colors. I'm like, that's the drummer of Cold Colors. And I don't remember what fucking show it was. I don't remember who it was. But you ended up on stage with an acoustic guitar singing, and it was fucking awesome.
Oh, thanks.
And it wasn't like you doing an entire set by yourself. I don't know if you just showed up and did a fucking thing at the end of a Cold Color set. I don't know if it was somebody else's gig and you guest appeared on stage, but it was at the Rock nightclub in Maplewood. I remember this.
Oh,
and I was like, dude, that dude is fucking awesome. Like, he was a good drummer. He's a fucking good guitar player and good fucking singer. I was like, that dude's badass. I didn't know he could fucking play guitar and sing. And somebody was like, yeah, I think that's what he originally did in this other band, and they mentioned one of your older bands, and I was like, oh, it was before my time coming into the scene.
Oh, sure.
So I was like, oh, really? Fucking crazy, wild. Yeah, fucking, because the weirdest thing about the Grand Machine stuff, to kind of fast forward a little bit,
sure,
is I was sitting here catching up, because I've heard your music.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in the scene, right?
Right.
Like, I've seen the Grand Machine play. I've seen you play both instruments in that band, I believe, which is why all the memories start blurring together. We kind of talked about that you play 1,000 shows.
Yeah, believe me, my own like, memories blur together.
And yeah, I know mine too. There's times I can't even remember. Like I'm like, I know I played that venue, and I remember playing a show, because I remember what happened, you know, before, during, or after, whatever, blah, blah, but I don't remember which instrument it was on. I don't remember which band it was in.
Right.
You know, and I'm the one on stage playing that show, and I still can't remember. So, but I was just blown away because I'm sitting here listening to your shit. Kevin came down, he was hanging out for a minute, and you guys know each other real well. You worked together.
Yep.
Him and I were in a band together called The Tyrants.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sitting there listening, and I'm looking at Kevin, and I'm like, how the fuck did we never play a show with these guys? Like, this doesn't make any fucking sense.
Well,
like, this is something the Tyrants, it makes way more sense that 7 Months of Nothing or Solace and Ashes or Dying Euphoria never played with Cold Colors. But I'm like, why did the Tyrants
Dying Euphoria never
play
played with Cold Colors?
Probably, but not while I was in the band.
Okay. Well,
and if I was in the band, then you weren't in the band. Right? It was like,
yeah, that's probably.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because the conversation we started on was we haven't played shows together.
Yep.
The issue is not whether our bands have ever
That's
played.
true. Okay, that's fair. I would say if you want to solve the Tyrants mystery, it's probably because when Kevin and I worked together, we had the same fucking closing shifts all the time. So if one of us was off on a Friday night to play a gig, the other one probably.
You guys were all so busy, and that's also a major issue when it comes to booking.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, we're playing that night. Oh, we're playing that night. Fucking, hey, are you guys available? No, we're playing that night. Fuck.
Yeah. Well, it was tricky too. So to backtrack again, like I was doing the solo thing, and then when I didn't have Cold Colors going on, I was like, okay, cool, it's time to actually like make a band out of this. So I started kind of piecing together a band, and we were called the Grant Brothers Moving Company. And
where's that name come from?
It came from
part of me wants to say it's an amazing band name, and then the other part of me wants to go, that's a terrible band name.
It came from my dad, actually.
What's the name again? That's why it's terrible, because I can't remember it. You said it twice.
I know
now.
it's too long.
But it's brilliant because of the sound of it and the way it rolls off the tongue.
Yeah,
say it one more time.
The Grant Brothers Moving Company.
Grant Brothers Moving Company.
So I was in high school, and I was in a band in high school, and we would change our name like once a week because we would think
this
of
in between the two bands, in between Cold Colors, or is this before Cold Colors?
This way before Cold Colors when I was in high school, and I'm talking to my dad one night, and I was telling him about all these band names that we had come up with, and he had played drums when he was in high school and college, and he had a band, and he was like, yeah, we were always called Fox, except for that week when we were the Grant Brothers Moving Company. And then he didn't elaborate on it at all during that conversation. And I was like, that thing stuck in my, like that name stuck in my head. And I went, okay, cool. One day I'm going to use that for something, not for a while, but someday, somewhere. And I was like, so as soon as it was like, okay, you're going to play like an alt country rock and roll style of band. I was like,
it was after Cold Colors when this band
yes,
existed.
this
but
band
you would
existed
come up
after
with the
Cold
name
Colors. Yeah,
way back in high school.
Yep, sorry,
that's why I've gotten confused.
I got lost somewhere.
No, you're fine. I misunderstood what you said.
Okay.
And thought we were jumping around the timeline too much. And I was like, what did I miss? We talked about this before the podcast. I was like, did I fucking... No, you're good.
I'm not a very linear storyteller. That's part of the problem.
Nor do you need to be. I just wanted to make sure I was catching up. So again, we're talking about you finally did start this band, and this is how we got out of Cold Colors, or what you did after Cold Colors.
Yep. So I was doing that, and then Jason Folkerts approached me at one point.
I remember Folkerts.
About like,
I love that guy.
Hey, dude, do you want to play bass in Second Class Citizen? And I'm like, well, I'm not a bass player, right? And he was like, yeah, but you play rhythm guitar, you play drums, and you can write songs. So why don't you? I think you can put two and two together and turn into a bass player. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I kind of had two bands going. Neither of them was like when I was in Cold Colors, we were for a while anyway. We were pushing like. Sometimes it was 2 gigs a month, sometimes 3. Like we were going for a local band that plays original music. We were playing an awful lot.
Yeah, I mean, just short of tour, and there's not much more you can do than that.
Yep, and there's for Second Class Citizen, for Grant Brothers Moving Company, it was a little more laid back. It wasn't quite as gig heavy, so I was able to balance that for a little bit. In the meantime, I wound up playing like 2 gigs filling in for the Grand Machine when their original drummer Pete couldn't make it to a couple of gigs, and they were like, do you want to play? And I'm like, yeah, fuck, why not? I'm like, we share a rehearsal space, like I'll just jump behind the drum kit that's down there and we'll give it a go. I wound up doing that, wound up talking, afterwards. It sounded like Pete was probably gonna be leaving the band, and I'm like, I can't do 3 fucking bands, man. Like I don't have enough time as it is. And with that, the drummer who was playing in Second Class Citizen left that band, and Jason was like, I'm not going to do it anymore. Like that. I don't want to, we find a new drummer, we start learning all these songs, and 8 months from now, we're in exactly the same place we are. And then what happens after that? And I was like, okay, cool. Like no problem. And then like I think I was in one band for like 1 week. And then I was like, and then
I've done that before.
And then it was like, okay, cool. Like, so we got this other gig coming up, like, do you want to do it with us? And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know if I want to join the band yet. And they were like, okay, that's cool. So I played like one more fill-in show with them. And then they had a gig like the same night as a Grant Brothers Moving Company show. So they had a different fill-in drummer. And after that, I was like, fuck it, I'm in the band. Let's go. Come on. Like, I don't know if I was like jealous or something. I was like, nobody else should be doing that.
And that's how you got from...
That's how I got from Cold Colors to the Grand Machine, anyway.
Right, through... So basically via fucking the Grant Brothers Moving Company.
Yeah, because the Grant Brothers Moving Company was... So there was a band called... Do you remember the Crime Novels?
I heard the name.
So I was a huge fan. Like, I really, really liked the Crime Novels. And so when I started trying to figure out who should be... Because they had broken up, and the singer and the drummer from the Crime Novels were the singer and the drummer in Grand Machine. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, what about the other guitar player? You know, so I wound up with, at some point or another, I think almost everybody who was in the Crime Novel, at least everybody who was in the Crime Novels at the point where I would go see them and enjoy them, was in the Grant Brothers Moving Company for at least a gig.
Interesting.
So yeah, I was like, we were sharing a rehearsal space, and that's how I got to know the other guys. And yeah, one day it just was sort of like, hey, our drummer's leaving, you're a drummer, you like the band, maybe you want to hang out and do this. And
so it could be argued, if you don't have the tenacity to start Grant Brothers Moving Company, you never end up in the Grand Machine.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
See, that kind of stuff fascinates me, because I've been obsessed with this idea going on 10 years now. That, okay, hear me out. Bear with me, okay?
I gotcha.
A while back, I would say 2008-ish, somewhere between 04 and 08, a lot of the big headlining bands in town broke up. Simultaneously, almost simultaneously, over like the course of 1 to 4 years, every band broke up, and all the good bookers and managers retired. Your Shannon Brettles, your Bill Berry, your Joe Spanbauer. He's still doing sound, but he's not booking and managing anymore.
He's done, I think I've done like 2 gigs with Grand Machine where he's done sound, and like hearing him say superstar vocal is one of the more comforting things in life. It was just like, fuck yeah, I feel like I'm back in the business now.
Yeah, he's I love working with that guy. But we had this weird collapse of leadership, right?
Yeah.
While we also lost equitable talent. Okay? Equitable talent is an important way I'm trying to phrase this. Meaning, if every single member of all of those bands that broke up would have had a side project going, people would have still had shows to go to, because they would have been like, okay, it sucks that my favorite band broke up, my favorite local band broke up, but they've all got their own solo projects now, so I can still go see the guys I'm a fan of, right?
Yeah.
So you're still keeping fans engaged, and you're still out there doing it. So there's a greater chance that you can keep your snowball rolling. When we built our entire musical identities on being the guitar player of band A or the drummer of band B, when that band broke up, most of us were fucked. Our music career came screeching to a halt, because we didn't do a Grant Brothers Moving Company. We didn't jump into something else and keep the ball rolling. And that's something I find fascinating, because I've been obsessed over that being such a priority. And like, I got to give you some props, because most people don't do what you did. You know what I mean? That keep hammering, that can't stop, won't stop attitude. You know what I mean? There's just not a lot of people that actually do that. They like bum around. Like, they still go to shows and shit, but they're just like waiting to join another band. It's like, you could have been playing shows this whole time.
Right.
And then you can keep going in your career. And I don't know. I just think, like, if we did something like that, if people had more of that kind of mindset when approaching our music industry here locally, I think we would kind of redistribute some of the equity, so when one band falls, the whole scene doesn't collapse with them. You know?
Yeah. I mean, like,
because those guys are still around. And then if the bass player, fucking quit the band, then okay. We can't find a new bass player, but okay, fine. Let's keep trying to find one. But in the meantime, I'm going to set up some gigs over here.
I'm going to go do this thing, yeah.
Because I love playing hillbilly rock.
That's interesting, though, because, well, I mean, 2 things come to mind. One is that, like, that sort of thing, that sort of thing isn't unique to like local situations. It happens on the like national scale too, of like, and what I think happens
As
is
well,
that
you're saying?
when people do split off from whatever project was that headlining level project, then they're not in that headlining level situation anymore.
Right.
And that becomes harder and harder to become a deal. So like, I mean, take Slash, for example, right?
Great example.
So Slash, Guns N' Roses, obviously we all know who that is. Miles Kennedy, who is, you know, the singer in Slash's band at this point, ostensibly. He is also in Alter Bridge. If Slash and Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators play a show in town, it's at First Avenue or something, right? Or maybe First Ave. I mean, the last time he came through, I think it was at Mill City Nights. And this is Slash, and this is Miles Kennedy. Now, if Guns N' Roses comes here on tour, they're not playing fucking First Avenue.
They're playing
an
Bank
arena.
Stadium.
If Alter Bridge comes through here on tour, they're playing an arena. So why in God's name aren't Slash and the guy from Alter Bridge playing in an arena?
At least they're playing.
Yes. Now that goes to your point of like, they are keep going. But when that same thing happens on a smaller scale, like a local, if you were headlining First Avenue and now you're playing at Big V's because for some reason your side project just doesn't have the fan base that your original project did, then it becomes, I mean, like we've all played Big V's. There's nothing more discouraging than a gig at Big V's. That's
I
not
avoided
fair.
Big V's.
That's not fair.
I think I got lucky and avoided Big V's.
I've done a few Big V's gigs.
You know what I
and
didn't avoid?
What?
The Red Sea.
The Red Sea. We kicked that one to the curb pretty. Well, there was that scandal.
We played it
thing
twice.
too. I think we played it
We
twice.
played it twice
like,
before the
on.
scandal. We played there once. We opened, and like we brought a lot of people, and then I forgot about this until Nick told me on the podcast. Actually, then they invited us back to headline. We were way too new to headline.
Yep.
But somehow we found two bands that were even shittier than us to open, and we almost sold out this room.
Oh, nice.
Like it was like wild. And when the Red Sea was packed, it wasn't that bad of a room. It was actually kind of dope. But then immediately after we headlined, like seriously within like 2 weeks or 2 months, that scandal hit.
Oh,
if people don't know what we're talking about, too bad. We're not getting into it.
Yeah,
it was bad.
That was fucking crazy.
We'll leave it at that.
The second point to what you were saying was so Matt Potts, the other guitar player in Grand Machine, has a theory that he kicks around pretty frequently, which is there are people who want to be in bands and there are people who have to be in bands. And he and I, his theory goes, are the kind of people who have to be in bands. We have to do music.
Right.
If the Grand Machine broke up tomorrow, the two of us would go out and start bands.
Right.
Maybe not together. Maybe it would be together. Maybe it would be
Right.
something else under a different name, a different style. But maybe not tomorrow, but within like a week.
Right.
You'd kick back for like that week off and go like, fuck yeah, I don't have to worry about band practice. I don't have to worry about selling records. I don't have to worry about recording any of that stuff. And then within a week, you would be like calling up somebody and being like, dude, you know, we always talked about jamming. Like, maybe we should do that. Like that. Actually, I mean, I have one other project. So I have a, and nobody's ever heard of this band because we don't actually like play gigs, but myself and a drummer get together once in a while and do a recording project called My Famous Mistake. And we literally like write songs, record them, put them up on Bandcamp. You can download them for free. We're not trying to
That's
get
cool.
anything out of it. It's the pay what you want thing on Bandcamp. So if you want to give me $10 to download it, fucking knock yourself out. It
Right.
goes into my PayPal account. If you don't want to pay for it and you just want to listen to it and download it, please do that too. Cause like, I just want
Sure.
people to hear some of these songs.
Right.
So I lost my train of thought right there for a second.
Well, we were talking about your
Have to be in
unwilling-
ba- have to
yeah,
be in bands,
having
yes.
to be in bands. Yep.
So Dave, the guy who plays drums in that project, he would periodically, he kind of helped me kick off what turned into the Grant Brothers Moving Company. So many years later, he's emailing me when I'm in the Grand Machine and being like, do you want to write some I still had Grant Brothers going. I had Grand Machine going. He's like, do you want to maybe get together and do some tunes? You know, I'm thinking like maybe some stuff that's kind of like the Jayhawks, but
let me press pause just for a moment of clarity. When you first jumped into the Grand Machine, I think you did say this earlier, from Grant Brothers, did you join as the drummer or the guitar player?
I joined as the drummer.
Got it. Okay.
And then when the singer left, I became the singer mainly because of my personality.
And the singer was, Kevin was telling me this, the original singer, his name was
Matt Anderson.
Oh, okay. That's not who we were talking about.
And he was in the crime novels.
Okay.
And he's in a band now called the Mondale Riot.
Gotcha.
With with two other guys who used to be in Grand Machine, actually.
So fast forward now to this other band you're in that no one heard, and then we were talking about the Bandcamp thing.
Oh, yeah. So, well, basically he'd hit me up when I had two other bands going and be like, do you want to do some stuff that maybe sounds like the Jayhawks, but maybe kind of also sounds like Cheap Trick? And I'm like, well, yes and no, because it sounds like fun, but like I have a band that's kind of doing the Jayhawks, you know, mixed with Springsteen roots rock thing, and I also have a band that's doing the like Cheap Trick meets the New York Dolls thing.
Right.
So anything that I give this project is either going to be
one of those two band songs.
Yeah, it like either you're going to get the rejects or they're going to get pissed at me.
Right.
So no. So as soon as I stopped doing Grant Brothers Moving Company, I had like 5 songs that we were working on, and I called him up like right away. I'm like, dude, I'm coming over with these 5 songs
because they didn't work for Grand Machine at this point.
Yeah, it is a little too. It was all very acoustic based.
Right.
That's
cool.
Was what I was working on with those things. So we did a couple of EPs like that, and we haven't worked on one. We actually put one out earlier this year that we hadn't really finished it, but once the COVID thing hit and the shutdown thing hit, you know, he hit me up one day and he's like, dude, I went back and listened to the record that we didn't finish. And like, yeah, we could do like harmony vocals on 1 or 2 of these songs, but fuck it. Like, why don't we just put it out? It's done. He's like, I'll clean it up in a mix. I'll throw it through some mastering software. It's going to be free anyway. And I'm like, yeah, dude, go for it. Like, put it out. So we did.
Very rock and roll.
Kind of fun.
Very rock and roll. I love it. So let me ask you this, man. So you've got all these projects going on, and that's obviously a huge part. But I mean, you're going to come on again. We don't need to hammer every single music story thing on one podcast. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not how it works. I'm also interested in the fact that somehow coming out of all that, you also got a baseball podcast going.
Oh yeah, I have a baseball podcast.
This is pretty cool. My Franchise Sports.
Yep, My Franchise Sports.
And then it's technically you're doing the baseball podcast.
We are doing the baseball aspect of it.
And you guys can check that out on iTunes.
iTunes.
I'm pretty sure I preloaded it in the comments. So
iTunes, but it's also on, I think, SoundCloud and Spotify.
Yeah, wherever you get your podcasts.
all kinds of places.
But it is audio only, so it's not.
It's just an audio thing.
It's not on YouTube.
You do not have to look at my pretty face. I don't think it's on YouTube.
You're gorgeous, Glenn. You got to get over yourself.
You're gorgeous. I love it.
Yeah, take a leak. We've been going for an hour. You want to go like another hour?
Sounds great.
Glenn warned me that he can't do 4 hours. He's like, that's not happening. We're not doing 4 hours. Get that out of your head. Get it out now. I was like, okay, well, we can do 2. I think people are, holy shit, I didn't even realize my hair looked like that. Let me put my fucking hat back on. Oh my God. What the fuck, dude? Good thing we don't do fan interaction during this podcast, or you guys would have been fucking. I mean, you're probably still laughing at me and eating me alive for my ridiculous fucking. You know who I kind of look like is like a young, gorgeous Doc Brown. That's not true at all. Oh, that's fucking hilarious, dude. Let's do this. Well, actually, you know what? I'm not sure I want to risk it. Fuck it. Let's do it. Doobie doobie doo. Watch, by the time I get this queued up, he'll be back down here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to queue up some Grand Machine, let you guys check some of this up. He brought me this fucking vinyl. This thing's sweet. I should plug this thing now. I meant to plug this thing earlier. Grand Machine 1 and Only. He brought me a fucking limited edition pressed vinyl. This thing is so fucking cool. I don't even know if I want to open it. This is a fucking sweet deal. I love vinyl. I currently do not have a record player, but it's something I've had on the list of shit I want to grab very, very soon. Then he's got a CD here he gave me too. I'm going to set this down for a second. Don't set your vinyl like that. Especially if you're going to set them on top of each other. Do, 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 do. Here he comes. By the time I get this queued up. By the time I get this queued up, he'll be here. I can hear him coming back. Told ya.
Talking yourself down there?
Sort of.
That's you got to do what you got to do, man.
I'm going to see if this works. Because next time I'm going to be more prepared. Is it playing? I don't know if it's working or not. Doesn't look like it's working. You're back anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Oh wait, there we go. Oh, look at that! It's working.
Nice.
We'll give him a little. We'll give him a little clip, a little preview.
Get a little love.
Yeah, that should be fine. Are you guys signed?
No.
Is this licensed?
No.
Okay, then we'll be fine.
No, you're good.
All right. That gives me a second to set this back up too. So that's you singing.
Yep.
It's got a little Collective Soul vibe to it. Or not Collective Soul, Soul Asylum.
Soul Asylum.
Little bit. Just a touch.
I wouldn't shy
I'm not
away.
talking shit.
I wouldn't
I'm
shy
not talking
away
shit.
from that comparison. I remember being a huge. I am a big Soul Asylum fan. How's that?
Sure.
That's great. I was more thinking. I remember being a '90s kid and listening to Grave Dancers Union over and over and over
Yeah.
again.
Great
You know,
record.
like, oh shit, that guitar starts for somebody to shove, and like even to this day, like I just crank the fucking volume up.
Yeah, so if you guys dig it, go check it out, man. Fucking
Yeah, please. It's on all the places.
all the places.
Yep. I like it if you're gonna buy the digital version. I like it if you buy it from Bandcamp because Bandcamp revenues go to the
you.
artists. Not 100%. I mean, like Bandcamp takes a small revenue share, but we're not. We're talking like you pay $10 for a record, I get $9.99 or some shit like that. Whereas, everybody's got their jokes about Spotify like 1 million streams get you like 1 million good vibes or whatever, or a penny or something.
I'm the
I don't
worst.
know.
I'm the worst ambassador for the music industry when it comes to the streaming logic and how artists are getting paid. I've completely flipped my logic on this. So call me crazy. Let me bounce this off you. Tell me if you think I'm being an idiot.
Go ahead.
All right. So here's the idea. We need to stop thinking about streaming music and even album sales as the main way we make our money. We need to focus on understanding in this theory, assuming I'm not full of shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to start understanding and focusing on that people listening to our music is now an advertisement for them to become a part of our deal. Okay. And
Yeah.
in this world that's playing shows, selling merch, having a Patreon, call that a fan club if you want.
Sure.
And now you have the ability to do microtransactions. So you can do something like $1.99 a month, $2.99 a month, $4.99 a month, whatever you want to do. People have the option to sign up for this. Because it's even been brought up with my podcast, right? Like somebody's like, well, what if you did something like this since you can't monetize yet? Because we're just brand new and building.
Right.
And I'm like, that wouldn't be a bad idea if like I set something up for 99 cents a month. If you wanted to, you're supporting me, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe is what I would do is like in a
You
case
sponsor
like this,
sponsor a podcast.
Yeah, but you're doing it as the listener, right?
Right.
And in there's nothing truly hidden behind the paywall because the price point's so low, like 99 cents, $1.99. So in my case, and I'm making a tragedy here. I'm mixing metaphors here, but I'm trying to be literal as well, right?
I get
so
it.
with my podcast, like what we're doing, right? Technically this is live, but it's not going to be public until tomorrow.
Right.
If you're part of the $1.99 or $2.99 fan club Patreon thing, you get access to all of this shit immediately.
Yeah.
There is no 48 hours in between episodes for you. So if I do 3 in a day, and you got the worst fucking 12-hour shift of your life, and for some godforsaken reason you want to listen to me bang out 3 podcasts in one day, you have that ability. For me musically, if I'm thinking in my band perspective, right, you get maybe early access to ticket sales, discount on merch, behind the scenes footage, bonus tracks. You can do you create extra content. Maybe in a band scenario, you do a podcast, right? So it's like that's like I'm kind of spitballing here, but this is something I've been kind of like mulling over for a while. If you're just a normal band and you're trying to figure out ways to make more content to justify this $1.99 a month fan club, that's your podcast. Like, okay, this is better than behind the scenes. We do one of these a week where the 5 guys sit down and fucking bullshit and talk about whatever. This is the most behind the scenes you'll ever get. This is not documentary edited footage of us recording. This is an hour-long live stream of the actual band sitting there. Maybe you answer questions and whatever. Figure out a way to monetize outside of just the album sales and start thinking about getting the album sales, the album streams, the listens as a way to get people to this other thing. Because this is how it kind of was back in the 50s, 60s, and even the 70s until Led Zeppelin came around. Bands did not make money off record sales. You just didn't.
No, record companies made money off record sales.
Right. And now streaming services are the ones making money off your streams.
Yeah, it's
the same model. So
I hate to break it to people. It's not different,
Right, exactly. It just went full circle. So here's what I'm getting at. We as musicians can't do anything about that.
Right.
Maybe guys like Metallica and Prince and fucking those guys can fucking fuck all those guys. I'm going to do it all on my website. Whatever, right?
Sure.
Whatever. Maybe if you're Tool, you hold out long enough and finally you get a good deal from Apple. Fine. I don't care. We can't do that. So here's what we do. We pivot. We control what we can control, which is my attitude, kind of like what you said with the Bandcamp thing. Like that's kind of how more people need to think, is like, let's just get the music out there because we just want people to listen to it. Regardless of whether we're balling out of control off you just listening is not the point anymore. Let's get enough people buzzed to where all of a sudden we can go fucking, hey dude, we can sell out a $1,500 fucking why do I keep saying arena?
I don't know, but we could headline First Avenue.
We could sell out a 1,500 seat venue in fucking Omaha, and they're willing to do pre-sale tickets and just give us the guarantee. Boom, they're $20 a pop. Here's our check. All of a sudden, you release your shit on iTunes, and it blows up in Japan or in Finland.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
Like I still to this day, I get
you know what I'm getting at, though, right?
When I see that one of our plays on Bandcamp or one of our downloads on Bandcamp is from Germany, I lose my shit. I don't know why. I mean, like,
it's cool as fuck, dude.
That's awesome. Like somebody in Germany just heard a song I wrote.
That's literally the dream.
Like that's so fucking cool. Like that was always what
bands do blow up
for.
In Germany, even though they're not popular in America. They blow up in Finland or Japan or Russia. Like that happens all the time.
I think every review that the Grand Machine has ever gotten for an album has been in a British publication.
There you go. You go.
You know.
So like I said, tell me if I'm stupid. Tell me if that's the dummest, craziest idea you've ever heard, because that's what I'm thinking now. That's how I'm going to try to do my deal. Because music's basically free.
I remember the whole Napster struggle with Metallica, and I remember Metallica coming off as pretty much douchebags throughout the whole deal. And I was a Metallica fan, you know.
Me too.
But I remember thinking to myself, like, I was a big enough Metallica fan, especially in like high school and growing up, that I read interviews with them. I was passionate about like learning about where they came from and what they'd done.
Right.
And all I ever heard them talk about was how the way that they had become a big deal in California, in LA, San Francisco, whatever, was through tape trading. Was that people would trade bootleg tapes with each other.
Yep.
So they basically went to all the sure. You know what? You are taking. I understand when you're illegally downloading something, you're taking money out of someone's pocket. I am not disagreeing with that. What I'm saying is that for a band like Metallica, for a band like Tool, for a band like whoever, that might add up to being a big deal over time.
Right.
But for a band like the Grand Machine, or a band like Dying Euphoria, or Cold Colors, or the Tyrants, or any of those bands,
exactly,
one fucking person getting that to another person is doing us more good than harm.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
That I've always thought that whatever I can do to get it out there, however I can get it to more people is a good thing. No, I don't want to just give shit away for free all the time. Like, there's a value, I think, to what we do.
Sure. See, and that's when I think you do shit like this. Like, you want to sell hard copies, and whether you're making money or breaking even on it, when you want to do shit like that, you do special stuff like this. Limited run vinyl. I kind of plugged this while you were
because we did the colored vinyl too.
Yeah, you do stuff like that, right? That shit's cool. And then if you are going to do like a hard copy CD that you're going to sell at your shows, maybe is what we try to do is we try to get creative and go, okay, we're going to give it away online for free, basically, you know, because here's where I started with this is I pay the silly little fucking $14.99 or whatever it is a month. And I just stream everything through iTunes.
Sure.
It's fucking, as a consumer, that's why I said I'm the worst ambassador for this side of the industry, because as a musician, but as also as a consumer of music, this is better for me as a consumer than it is bad for me as a musician.
Right.
With my mindset. So I'm going, okay, if I'm going to do something like this and not make money off the streams on that side of the fence, what makes this special then? Then maybe every time we do a real CD like this, maybe is what I need to do is film us recording it and put a DVD in there. Maybe we do bonus tracks. Maybe there's some covers in there or some shit. I don't fucking know.
What?
Figure something else out to where my CD stands out more than some other random person's CD, because now it's almost like this, like it's special again. You see what I'm saying?
Yep. There's a band that I'm a huge fan of from the UK called the Wild Hearts. And they're...
Is that gone?
Yeah, it's gone.
I can toss them for you.
Sweet. They do a ton of like crowdfunding and pre-order type stuff, and their singer and main songwriter Ginger Wildheart has done a bunch of his own solo stuff too, but that's like his huge thing is everything is always like on the pre-order kind of deal, but he's done a bunch of things where he's like, okay, pre-order the vinyl, you pay, £30 today, you pre-order the vinyl, it'll ship when it comes out. Here's the download of the album.
Right.
Like, I finished this album. You're not paying for me to make this. I made this.
Right.
You're paying for it to get pressed, and you're paying it for it to get mailed to you.
Right.
So I've purchased his albums where I bought the hard copy because I want the vinyl copy because I think it's cool.
Right.
But as soon as I click through all those links, I have the download for the whole album right there. The newest one they're doing is a live album that's coming out. It was supposed to come out in September, but it's gotten delayed with printing and et cetera, et cetera. But they mailed out a 4-track CD of tracks that aren't on the album and a like pin. And like, am I at a point in my life where I need a Wild Hearts pin? Probably not. Am I glad that I have it? Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, though.
It's cool.
But here's the thing: is let's break that down for a second, because you're a legitimate music fan.
Yes, I believe so.
And you're my age.
Yeah.
Okay. This is why this matters, is because we're not actually marketing to ourselves.
No.
We're marketing to children.
Yes.
And if you get a child to become a bona fide fan, you have a Glen Wadie for life.
Yeah.
You have a guy who's fucking our age who is willing to jump in and go pay somebody, like you just said, X amount of dollars because you just want the novelty. You don't need this fucking pin or this button or what. It doesn't matter. It's part of the deal. It's part of the art. It's part of the thing, the substance, the consumption of that experience. And that's what we need to start thinking about, because this isn't a thing, right? So, I mean, this is a thing, but it's not a thing anymore for the kids. They look at a CD and they're like, what the fuck? Why would I want this? Like, it's a piece of plastic with some shitty art on it. Not your CD, but you know, you got to think like an 11-year-old kid. Like, that's fucking stupid. So we need to really start like just reapproaching it almost the way, like, again, that's why album art back in the day used to be so crucial, because it had to catch your fucking eye, right? Like, that's why Iron Maiden and fucking Megadeth and all those bands had these cool, wild, crazy, creepy fucking album covers, because
and that was all you had to go on.
Right.
We didn't get to, like, because regardless, if you are going to buy the physical copy now, you can still Spotify that shit beforehand and find out.
Yep.
So, like,
that is true.
You know, that band.
I mean, you did have the radio. You did have the radio.
You did have the radio, but if you were going to go any deeper than Metallica, Megadeth, and Iron Maiden, to keep, I'm going to sound like really fucking metal. Everybody's going to think I'm really metal after.
No, but I get where you're going with it. You have to go to root of all. You have to go to Root Cellar Records if you want to go deeper than what's on the radio.
You know, and before that, it was like, okay, I'm at fucking Camelot Music at the Mall of America, like, which one of these two albums looks cooler? Because I have $15 American and that's fucking it. Like, so sorry, whatever band I ditched so I could buy Ceremony of the Opposites by Sam Aile because their name sounded cool and they had a picture on the cover of like Jesus with the crown of thorns, but instead they were nails.
Right.
Like, fuck yeah, I'm buying that record. It'll piss off somebody's mom, probably mine.
Right.
You know? That was a huge deal. You're right, the album art thing. But I think what you got to figure out, what we probably have to figure out, and clearly I don't know how to do it to the best.
Well, I think you kind of are doing it though. I'm not calling you out when I say this.
No,
shit.
but I'm saying, like,
I'm saying these things because the things you're doing stand out to me as things that everyone should be doing but isn't. And I'm just kind of trying to think through, like, this makes sense to me. Because this is something somebody would buy, is what people don't buy as much of these anymore. I bet you when you press these, you still got most of these sitting around now.
Oh, we do have a lot of those sitting around, yeah.
But you probably don't have nearly as many of those sitting around. Not only did you print less, but they're probably actually coveted.
Right.
And sought
and
after.
I mean, like, so there's a download card in all of them too. So I've got a couple friends who don't own record players who bought this.
Right.
Because they're like, well, dude, I don't care if this just like, you're my friend and you're on vinyl and you're a like vinyl junkie and you sit around spinning records all day. So I know this is a big deal to you. So because of that, it's a big deal to me. And now I can just, whether it goes in a frame or it goes on a shelf or it collects dust or whatever, it's still a thing that they can go like, that's cool. Like, I have a friend who's actually like, they run into somebody who's like, yeah, I've been getting really into vinyl. I got a turntable the other day. Like, fuck, I have a friend who's on vinyl. Like, here he is. Look at it. Isn't that cool?
It's cool. It's fucking cool, dude. The Tyrants talked about doing it. We were going to do it. We never finished our fucking record.
Oh, don't get me started on not finishing records.
You know what I mean? Like, dude, it just... But that was part of our deal because we were debating this exact theory. Like, are we even going to do CDs?
Let me ask you, why don't you finish? If you have records that are unfinished or records that never got made or even got started, why? What stopped them?
Each one's a little different. The Tyrants, really, to be honest, John couldn't get his shit together, man.
Okay.
He couldn't write lyrics. There's so many things. Other bands, we finished them, but they were glorified demos, so we never published them.
Mine is the fucking inability to commit to something being finished.
So, like, you kind of like, you're saying it's never done?
Yeah.
Like, you want to keep going? Like, it's not good
enough
yet?
There's always something I'm not good. There are two entire...
Why? So, do you write to the album? Do you write for the album?
I just write. Like, most stuff, I just write. And
do you write a song and then get a group of guys together and work out the kinks in a room before you record it?
Most of the time, yeah.
Okay. See, and that's why I asked that, because that's how I avoid a lot of that shit. It's like, no, dude, the song's done. All we got to do is figure out how to get it to sound on record when it sounds amazing in the room and everyone's like, this song's awesome.
Right.
That's how when we know it's done. I notice there is a theme with guys that write for the record or to the record. They have a bigger problem finishing songs than guys that do it our way.
Mine is it's always the same thing of just like couldn't I have done a better vocal take? Couldn't I have done a better guitar part? Couldn't I have played that, couldn't I have had somebody else play that solo? Couldn't I add a keyboard part here? Couldn't I do this? There are two different not finished grandfathers.
Do you produce your own records?
No. Usually no.
See, I think that right there, I think that's the difference between working with a glorified engineer and a true producer. Because a true producer will tell you when the take is good enough.
That was what working with Terry on these last two albums was
yeah,
like.
because especially maybe not from a vocal perspective, he'll tell you it's good enough, right? But on a guitar perspective, you'll be like, no, I missed this fucking thing here, and he's like, it's fine. I'm going to have you punch in a little bit. We're going to fix that one spot. And you're like, but I'm still not happy with the tone, or like, it's just not sounding right the way I'm playing it. And he's like, again, don't worry about it. Because he has an entire, it's almost like a fifth member of the band type situation, right?
Yeah.
Like he's going to do so much on the back end that it's, like, for example, you're a guitar player, so you'll actually appreciate this. So you have tone snobs, right? Like when it comes to dialing in our live rigs.
Oh, yeah.
I'm one of them.
I'm not.
I am. And it's because I'm fucking good at it. And it's because my fucking guitar tone is fucking awesome. Because I learned from somebody who was awesome and he taught me. There are legitimate tricks to this. Number one, when you're dialing in live sound, you are not dialing it in so your guitar sounds great by itself. You're dialing it in so it cuts through the mix. I'm not patronizing you. I know you know this shit. I'm talking to them as I'm catching up to my actual point. However, when you dial it in for recording, not only do you want to dial it in differently so it sounds good to you, but in order to get that to where it's like, yeah, it sounds fucking great in the room when I'm playing it, but when you play it back, it sounds like shit. That is a whole nother process. So all the years of skill guys like me or you or whoever may or may not have put in skill, I'm not trying to call you out, right? Where it's like it took me years to learn how to dial in tone, specifically certain amps. And once you learn how certain amps work, then I can interchange the guitar and add in pedals and shit. Like, because I understand how this amp works, and it's its own little skill set that took a long time to build. My point is being able to do that in the studio is the exact same skill set. So when you have a real producer who will fucking be, you'll be upset with your take. I think I could do a better one. He'll be like, no, trust me, that one's fine. The vocal side is a real producer, in my experience, versus a glorified engineer, will push you as a vocalist more. So like, dude, that wasn't good enough. And you're like, really? I thought that was really good. And he's like, no, you got one more in you. We can do better than this. Yeah. And they'll find cheats. So the best producer I ever worked with, so far, one thing he did when I was a vocalist is, yeah, I can just say it that way. The best producer I ever worked with as a vocalist noticed I was having a really hard time hitting this 1 or 2 note drop down in my highest register. Like, it wasn't that I couldn't hit those notes. It wasn't that I was tone deaf. It was just this little trick in this little spot, because you're trying to harmonize and hit this note way up here. Yep. He went and played it either on the guitar or the keyboard or something, and played that along with the song. So I just sang those notes.
Yeah.
I had written those notes, but I couldn't execute at that.
But if you have something that you're...
And it was just that one little trick, and it's like...
Yeah, it's like when you can hit that note in the car when you're singing along with whoever it is.
Yeah, but not everybody knows this. And this is what I'm saying. And then in my point is I think a great producer knows when to push you and knows when to stop you. Because you, as a musician, have written this music. Now you're recording this music. You're hearing it in a bad mix because you're hearing pre-production shit. Yep. And you have officially lost your mind and your ability to look at your own song with, like,
If
discretion and non-bias. You know what I mean? Because everything starts sticking out to you at that point.
If a genie ever grants me 3 wishes, one of them is going to be able to hear every record I made as if I were not me.
Oh, that would be fascinating.
Wouldn't it be fucking amazing? Like, because people tell
if I could hear the first 7 months of Nothing recording as Slipknot.
No.
Slipknot do my first record.
Oh, no. I mean, I want to be able to hear whatever you hear when you listen to this record.
Oh.
Because what I hear is a sore throat. and a guy who didn't get enough sleep that night. You know what I mean? Like, I hear... I think a lot of us do as musicians is we tend to hear our issues with something. We don't hear it as... Because we created it. It's our thing. It's our baby.
Right. I know exactly what you're talking about because I hear the same thing in the old Tyrants record in John's voice. There's certain parts where I'm like, that's not your A game, John. Like, you could have done that vocal part much better. And he's like, oh, I gave it everything I got. And like, Kevin's the one that recorded, and Kevin's like, I was sick of his shit. It was good enough. That's the best I could get out of him. If you don't think it's good enough, Jared, you can produce him next time. And I was like, there's a reason I didn't come to the studio that day.
Well,
like,
we had
I didn't allow myself in the building. Seriously, I didn't allow myself in the building while John was doing vocals. Knowing him, I knew if I was there, I would have fucking strangled him. And I was like, dude. And Kevin's like, yeah, it was really bad. It was really smart for you not to be there.
I don't know if we got luck. I mean, like, we had a really good team. So with Terry and so Terry Katzman produced these last 2 records, and Will Marvellis engineered them.
Oh, I know Will.
But Will's an outstanding engineer. But he also is he's a good producer too. But he would Terry didn't touch the fucking computer. Will did all that. But,
right.
Terry's like, this is how this is going to work. Can you do that? Make this thing happen. Okay, cool. He was the director.
That's the producer. That's the real producer.
Yeah. But Will has an amazing ability to tell me that I am done for the day. That's a
great engineer.
When I've got the like, all right, let's go. Next song. And he's like, yeah, so why don't you come in here and listen back to that last take? And I think we're going to be done for that. Go have a smoke. Like, just chill out. Like, you're doing fine, but you're tired. So why don't you get some rest? We'll come back tomorrow and finish the rest of it. And like, if you're like me, at first you get mad. You're like, fuck that. I got another 20 takes of me. And like, if you listen back to it, it's like, I was actually trying to do some like home recording for a minute. And one night I learned what he was talking about because I had done a vocal take like 5 times.
Right.
And after the 5th one and being like, I'm still not happy, I went back and listened to the first one again. And I was like, dude, this is the best one. This is the one where you had this is the one where you had energy and you bought into it and you did the whole, like,
that's why I quit singing. It's too much fucking work. It is. I'm fucking lazy, and it's not even I'm lazy. I just is what I don't like doing is tedious bullshit. And being a vocalist is tedious. You have to watch out for, if you really want to do it the right way, you got to watch out for what you eat and drink, especially the day of a recording or a show or a performance. Smoking's a no-no. Drinking alcohol's a no-no. Fucking, you got to make sure you get X amount of sleep. You got to do this. You got to do that. You fucking blah, 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 blah. And then you still have all the other bullshit that goes with being a creative person, right? But you got to treat your body more like an athlete than anybody else in the band. And you're hands down the most loved and hated person in the band, right?
Yeah.
You take the front, you take the shit of everything. Like, it's the hardest job in art. It has to be, because like, you make or break the band as the singer. Like, if people don't like you, they don't like your band. It doesn't matter how much everything else is. They're like, band's cool, can't stand that singer. These are huge bands that still have this today. Number one reason I hear people don't like Metallica, they're like, I can't fucking stand James Hetfield's voice. Boom. Can't listen to Metallica. 30 years of music. They're like, nope. You see what I'm saying? It's a tough job. It's a fucking tough job. I just said, fuck it, dude. Playing guitar, I could be tired, and it's very, very similar. The fatigue sets in, the frustration, the irritation sets in, all those kind of things. But you can just take a break. I don't need to go sleep and let my vocal cords rest and drink green tea. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to do any of that other shit. Maybe I go fucking play video games for 2 hours, eat some food, drink a fucking Coke, so I'm fucking kind of like ramped up again, get some blood sugar back in me, maybe re-stretch my hands, fucking smoke a cigarette, come back in, boom, let her rip, and it's the best thing I've done all day.
Yeah. Yeah, with vocals, it's
so
constantly
much
like,
easier.
it's the same as like, it's
Same
the same
thing with
as
drumming,
like,
by the way.
the
I
same
don't
as
know
like-
if you agree, but drumming's way easier than vocals. Way easier. Same thing. You fuck up, do it again. You fuck up, do it again. Okay, I'm tired. Let me eat something. I'll come back in an hour.
I had somebody tell me once, I had a producer tell me once that he's like, I can make anybody who's a competent guitar player sound like a great fucking guitar player. I can't fix a bad drummer and I can't fix a bad singer.
I get that. Yeah, that
You know,
makes sense though.
the idea he was getting at was like, if you don't have the groove to play drums, it's never going to happen. I played guitar solos on my Famous Mistake stuff I did. They're all, I'm not going to lie, they're all fucking comped. They're all chopped together. It's, okay, start here. Okay, cool. Like, we might have got one note on that take and then gone and done the rest of the notes on another take or something. I'm not a lead guitar player, but I can make some pretty cool. I wrote all of it. I played all of it. I didn't fucking I didn't sit there and pitch correct all the notes or anything like that, but it took some work and it took some editing to make it happen. And I think it sounds like I'm at least a competent lead guitar player on those songs. Now, when it comes to drums, you can't comp a drum track. It's gonna sound fake. It's gonna sound stilted. It's not gonna sound real. You know,
you need a little compression.
Yeah,
a little bit.
No, but I mean, like, you can't just chop up like, okay, here's the snare from this take.
Oh, I thought you meant comp as in like you can't compress drums, which is true because if you over compress drums, you lose all the dynamics.
You have every metal album that came out between 1985 and 1989.
I wasn't gonna go there, but you did.
Yeah.
So I'm in the clear this round.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, dude, we've been going an hour and a half. Let's plug your baseball podcast.
Let's talk about the podcast.
I find this fascinating that there's this very strange similarity between musicians and athletes, musicians and comedians, comedians and athletes, and a lot of us as musicians were athletes, or even sometimes still are. So did you play a lot of baseball and football? You got a Bears tattoo. You wear your Bears socks.
Yeah, I wore my Bears socks.
Let's get this out of the way real quick before we even get to the baseball podcast. Let's just blitz through some sports shit real quick.
Yeah.
I'll get in front of it. Yes, the Vikings suck this year. Yes, Kubiak is the worst fucking coordinator in the league. Yes, Kirk Cousins looks like trash, especially under fucking Kubiak. We have no O-line.
Dude, I feel
team
like
looks like a bunch of amateurs. I get it. Yep, you're all right. Move on.
I lived through an entire season of Jay Cutler with Mike Martz as his antiquated offensive coordinator. I feel for you. I feel bad. I think I've matured.
I forgot about that.
I think I've matured in my sports fandom in that, like, I used to buy into the whole, like, Bears fan thing where, like, fuck the Vikings, I hope they all die of chlamydia or whatever, and, like, oh, goddamn Packers, I hope they choke on their own fucking cheese
that's how I
heads. And,
still feel about the Packers, but I'm there with everybody else.
I've tried to warm up and just be like, okay, cool, like, so when I haven't watched any football this year, but like I read the descriptions and hear accounts of the game and stuff like that. And so when I hear people talk about like the offensive coordinator and the offensive line and the quarterback not complimenting each other in any way, shape, or form, I actually just feel bad for everybody now. Like, oh yeah, I lived through that when the Bears could not hire anybody to be the offensive coordinator. So Lovey just got his old buddy Mike Martz to come run fucking 7-step drops in like a totally antiquated system in an NFL with no fucking offensive line, and Jay, not the best decision maker, Cutler out there.
Yeah, it's rough, dude, and it's tough being a fan of a sport, because that's the thing is, like, I'm a fan of two things. I'm a fan of these sports in their purity. So I'm a football fan. I genuinely am a baseball fan. I genuinely am a basketball and a hockey fan, not to all the same degree. However, is what I really also am is a huge Minnesota rube. I'm a Minnesota sports fan. So I literally, if You know how some people, they're fucking channel surfing and they'll end up watching HGTV for 8 hours?
Yep.
If I can't find anything to watch, I will literally like just look at the Comcast thing and sort it for my favorite teams, and I go through every sport and pick the Minnesota team, whether it's fucking college volleyball or college baseball.
Sure.
Doesn't fucking matter. I'm a Minnesota sports fan, so I'm never going to root against the Vikings. It's never going to fucking happen. But I can't stop watching because I love football, and I'm not going to sit there and watch the Jets Dolphins while the Vikings are playing. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. But I will sit there after the Vikings game. I'll still sit there and watch the 3:00 game and the Sunday night game. And I turn on Monday Night Football and I watch Thursday Night Football. I can't fucking wait for Big Ten football to come back because guess what? I'm watching football on Saturdays. I love fucking football, period. There's just no getting around it. So I get what you're saying, but I can't. And I'm such a rube. I'm such a fan of the game. I did play football. Not at a super high level. I didn't play Big Ten football or anything like that, but I understand the intricacies of the game. So it's almost like, and I'm not digressing. I'm this actually working out to be a really good segue into the baseball podcast. Cool. Because I can't watch just what everyone else watches. Kind of like how you were saying, like you wish you could listen to your record as me.
Right.
I wish I could watch football or even listen to music the way everyone else does. I can't do it. I have a hard time just straight up enjoying music the way other people do because I'm analyzing it. I'm like, ooh, why did he write that way? I wouldn't have done that. I would have written it this way. Or, wow, that's fucking amazing. I would have never written it that way. That is so much better than my idea. But I'm not listening. I'm analyzing. I'm learning. I'm studying. Same thing with live. If you ever notice this, because we've seen each other and hung out at shows and shit.
Yep.
That's not the question from the beginning of the podcast, but how many times did you see me standing there like this, stoic, right at the fucking side of the stage, either watching you or watching somebody else, or I got a beer in my hand, or at the Rock, I was always next to the soundboard, standing there, and it's because that's what sounds the best. I always try to find the best sound in the room, and number two, I get a great angle so I can see all the band members. I can watch them perform and I can watch them interact with the crowd. I can see how the crowd is responding to them. Again, I don't have the ability to go to a concert like
and not pay attention to what fucking amp they're playing through.
Right, exactly. I can't go to a concert and just lose myself in the musical experience like ever. I'm jealous. Same thing with football. I can't watch the fucking Vikings drop back and just go, oh my God, Kirk Cousins sucks. I'm going, well, no. Hold on. This guy missed that block. This guy missed that block. This entire play call was bad because before the ball was snapped, I knew it was coming. First part of fucking football is deception, right? So I'm like, there's all these other things going on. And then it makes me angry because if I'm seeing this simple, obvious, observable thing from my fucking couch, and this guy's getting paid millions of dollars to fail, that shit drives me nuts. And so it doesn't matter whether I'm mature enough to let go, like you said, because for me, it's not a choice. It's a competitive drive. I don't want to see Minnesota teams lose because we are the fucking mockery of every sport. Oh, you're a Wild fan? When's the last time you won a playoff series? Fuck, you got us. Oh, you're a Timberwolves fan? Enough said. You know what I mean? Oh, you got us. We got one team to hang our hat on, the Minnesota Lynx. And they're not winning championships anymore either. We had like a solid 3, 4, 5 year run or something like that. And then before that, we got the Twins. And that's it, brother. That's it.
And
that's
the Twins are like, and the Twins, even when they're great, dude, like they've got that huge fucking Yankee bugaboo thing that just cannot get over.
Yeah. And so this is a perfect segue. So it must be like you in the podcasting realm. That must be why you're doing a baseball podcast, because you must love baseball to a similar degree that I love football.
I do, and I did love football to that same degree. I had the same.
She broke your heart.
I had the same thing for a long time where I was like, I would be like, well, of course you don't throw that against a cover 2 front. Like everybody knows that you're not gonna. I mean, God damn, that's
here's where your zones are. If you're running
like,
cover 2, you throw here.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck. I mean, like. In the the Bears for the longest time had this like insane ability to not fucking understand what a post route from a tight end was going to look like.
Right.
Like 3rd and 15 every time. Other teams get another team in 3rd and 15. See, now I'm getting worked up about the Bears. So other teams get a team in 3rd and 15, and you go, sweet, get ready for the punt. All right. The Bears get somebody. I would watch a game with my dad, and we'd be like, oh, great,
the
it's
Packers
3rd and
used
long.
to be notorious for that. You remember that shit?
Yeah.
4th and 24.
Yeah. Like, it's 3rd and long, and these guys are going to run a fucking post with the tight end. He's going to be wide open over the middle.
So did you play sports before you got into music or while you were in high school?
I played sports as a kid, but I wasn't good at it. And I was I've always had like I always got told I had a pretty shitty attitude. I was always kind of like I wanted to be the best at stuff, and if I wasn't, I was just kind of shitty about it.
Sure.
And
fair.
that's kind of how sports ended for me at a fairly young age. But I still got into watching it. I still got into I stopped playing organized baseball, but I didn't stop, hanging around swinging a stick in the backyard. I don't the nuances of somebody's swing. I don't understand how they're made. But I know it's like who was the guy who said that about pornography, like the Supreme Court justice?
Fuck.
I don't know how to define it, but I know it when I see it.
Sure, I know who you're talking about. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, but it's the same idea for me. And so what kind of drove me to be more interested in baseball is the calmness of it.
It is the chillest of all the 4 major sports.
Dude, there's something so beautiful about like baseball on the radio.
Dude, tell
just
me
like
about it.
I can sit back. I can't listen to I will listen to a football game on the radio. If the Bears are in the playoffs and I don't have like television, I will put the game on the radio. I will figure it out somehow, and I will listen to it. But like as good as a play-by-play guy.
Let me pause you there and let
me
ask you to elaborate on that. So is it potentially because like the Vikings, right? I love listening to the Vikings on the radio because I love
listening to Vikings. Okay, this is where
I love Paul Allen play-by-play. Some people hate him, right? I love it. Now
I'm going to be that shitty guy now that I said I wasn't anymore. I love listening to the Vikings lose on the radio because I love listening to Paul Allen's meltdowns.
Fair. And so do I. Even when they lose. In fact, he got a lot of shit because he'd be like, "Oh, and touchdown and Vikings lose." Like he got shit because he was like too ramped up and emotional when the Vikings lost. And I loved that because hearing the heartbreak in his voice, like, dude, when what's his name got pushed out of the end zone and still scored the touchdown in Arizona for us to fucking not make the playoffs all of a sudden to Josh fucking McCown, I believe was the quarterback. Was it Tyler Poole? That sounds right. That's probably not right. Tyrone Poole, something like that. Probably not that. Either way. No! Like, that it's just like it was right. And now all of a sudden every time the Vikings lose with a walk-off field goal and it's good and the Vikings lose, and it's like, dude, come on, like, be as pissed off as I am about this right now. But again, maybe he's like, I just can't do that anymore. I can't get that angry and that emotional, and I get that. But
I tried that, like that Bears playoff Bears playoff game with the double doink against the fucking Eagles. What was it, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Like I watched that whole game like a goddamn grown up.
Right.
I enjoyed football. I occasionally something didn't go our way, and I kind of like rats, like, oh well, go get them next time. The whole goddamn time. Right. I made it the whole way through.
Right.
And that field goal, I erased 3 hours of being a civilized human being in 30 seconds. I probably broke something.
Right.
Not a bone or anything, but and not anything valuable. I've learned how that stuff, you learn how that stuff works over time, and you start to keep like the plastic cup next to the TV when you watch the game or something. So it's like there's nothing, you got that foam brick or whatever.
Yeah.
That kind of shit. But no, for I don't hate listening to football. It doesn't give you that.
Yeah, back to the radio thing.
You don't get the picture the same way you do with baseball. Like you think, and especially when you think of like the great broadcasters like the Vin Scullys and things like that, where they could describe a whole game, and it's laid back enough for them to be able to give you a picture of what's really
That's
going
what
on.
I was, and that's what I was going to say, because like if you want to listen to baseball, you basically have one guy, one channel you can listen to, and it's whatever game happens to be on. But baseball on the radio, it's like, it's hard to explain because you're not always limited to one play caller. I mean, the Twins have fucking 4 guys that rotate in and out of there.
Yep.
And it's over the course of a longer period of time. I mean, throughout the year. It's not 16 weeks. It's usually 162 games. And like you said, it's so chill that you can put it in on the background and you don't need to listen because it's not as suspenseful until it gets into the later innings.
It's not edge of your seat stuff.
Until you're either in the later innings or it's playoff baseball.
Yeah.
Dude, I will lose my shit on some playoff baseball.
I have very recently.
And again, so this is a great way to segue into our final chapter here, which is the Twins potentially drawing the card for the Yankees in the playoffs. Again, I heard somebody, I didn't confirm this, I didn't have time to confirm it, but he said, so yep, the Twins are playing the Yankees in the playoffs again. And I was like, it is way too early to decide that. And he's like, nope, it's pretty much already inevitable. I looked. I don't think it's inevitable, but
it's not inevitable, but if the season ended today, the Twins would play the Yankees.
Exactly. And there's still, 10 games left or 6 games left?
About 10.
6 or 10 or something.
Depending on
like
who
that.
you are, there's like the Cardinals, because of their like little COVID shutdown at the beginning of the season, are playing like 12 games in 10 days or some shit like that.
Oh, boo-hoo. I'm just kidding. I'm just fucking around. But
I'm certainly not going to boo-hoo the Cardinals.
Tell me, so because we brought up the Twins earlier in the fucking the kind of the staleness of our teams around here, and here's my attitude now, man. Here's the deal. Like, okay, you know what? I'm glad you fucking drew the Yankees, because until you beat the Yankees in the playoffs, I'm not taking you seriously anymore. Like, I'm so sick and tired of getting hyped up about this Twins team and then getting them smoked in the first round of the playoffs to the fucking Yankees. So I'm glad it's the first round Yankees again. I don't want to make it to the fucking AL championship game and lose to the fucking Yankees. Yeah. I don't want to do it. If we're going to lose to the Yankees, get out of there in the first round. If you're going to beat the Yankees, prove it in the first fucking round. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Like, man up, get it done. Be winners. So fuck it. If we draw the Yankees, we draw the fucking Yankees. Call me crazy, dude. You take it from here, man. You're the baseball podcaster.
It's which makes me sound like I have some sort of like expertise, but I don't. Like, that's the cool thing about the podcast is we tried to approach it. We still try to approach it from a like.
It's all speculation.
The idea is that like
it's all Rube Nation.
The idea is basically that you stumbled on our conversation in a bar. Like, you just happen to be sitting next to the two of us breaking down our thoughts on baseball.
So what are your thoughts on the Twins, specifically as we wrap up the regular season?
The Twins, exactly what you said is, if the Twins are going to lose to the Yankees, they might as well get it out of the way. That you have to beat them somehow or another. And
And I meant that both psychologically and like literally in order to get to the championship.
I do think and it's really weird that psychology transcends players and coaches and eras of the team. This has been going on since 2002. That doesn't make any fucking sense. When you watch a football game and it's like, the Chiefs and the Packers, here they are. No love lost between these two teams after Super Bowl III. Fuck, none of these guys were alive then.
Right.
This is not a rivalry that dates back to that.
Great point.
Shut up. It's a wonderful, it's a cute story and everything, but that's not a real thing. But I cannot for the life of me understand what it is that continues to cripple new eras of the Minnesota Twins when it comes to the New York Yankees. And we're not talking like
so I got a buddy down there, and I've got buddies that have worked for, luckily I know a lot of people, and so I've had buddies that have worked in those facilities. I'm not sitting here pretending I know coaches,
right?
But I know people that work in that facility, and I'm going to compare them to the Vikings. When the Packers show up, or whoever the best team in the NFL is, if they're coming to US Bank Stadium or the Metrodome, there was a new air and Packer Week was the biggest one because it's our biggest rival. But
There's a
during
different
Packer Week,
vibe to it.
and it was like high energy. People were stoked. They were pumped. We're gonna fucking get them. Like there was just a new energy. Same thing when the fucking 13-0 Chiefs came into the Metrodome years and years and years ago, and we just spanked them. It was like there was an energy in the building all week leading up to that game. From what I've heard, when we know we're playing the Yankees, even at home, that energy goes down.
Goes
and
the
they're
wrong
like,
direction.
"Oh, we're playing the Yankees." And I heard that shit went away 2 years ago, I believe it was, when the Twins, we had Brian Dozier, and we went into New York to play that wild card game, that play-in game, the 1-game playoff.
Yeah.
And we came out like we were up like 2-0 or 4-0 or something like that.
Yeah, they were
then,
up 3-0 after the first inning.
Yep, and then it was like, 4 or 5 innings into the game, and it was like, oh, here it goes. And the Yankees just ran away with the game by the end of it. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. And the reason I bring that game up is because it seemed like the guys had a lot of adrenaline and they were jacked up for the beginning of the game, but they couldn't keep that adrenaline up. And so, dude, it's like maybe it's not just psychological. Maybe we just are an inferior baseball organization.
I don't see, but that would be one thing if we were talking about the late 90s, early 2000s, 3 World Series in a row New York Yankees. That would be fine. The Yankees haven't even won or been to a World Series in more than 10 years.
Okay.
This isn't this team that you can't get away with. I would understand if the current state of the Los Angeles Dodgers and they're like mini dynasty, which brings up the point of like, can you be a dynasty if you don't actually win the championship, but if you go to it all the fucking time?
Right.
Like weren't the 90s Bills actually kind of a dynasty in their own way?
Yeah, you got to consider them a dynasty, 4 consecutive, because they did win championships, just not the big one. They won AFC championships. That's
right.
Still
they
a dynasty.
Were always there. That's a big fucking deal. So
that's huge.
I understand if a team keeps running into the Dodgers, who have been the best team in Major League Baseball over like the last 3 years. I understand if they're the team that's causing this problem, but the Yankees haven't been that dominant a team that should be the sticking point for the Twins. And
they're just dominant against us.
Yeah, I haven't dug deep enough to like look at the various splits and like how could maybe we have too many lefties in the lineup and they have better pitching against that. Maybe there are,
I mean, for years it was Mariano Rivera. For years it was him. Like we'd be with him, and then fucking they'd get up by 1 run, they'd send in Mariano Rivera, and it was over.
Yeah. Well, that happened to a lot of teams,
right? Right.
that wasn't unique.
I mean, but that's what I'm getting at, though. But that's what I'm getting at, though. For years, it was just that guy, and he did it to everyone. But even you get rid of Mariano Rivera, still happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Some guys get hot at the right time. I mean, 2015, the Cubs in the playoffs in the NL Championship Series against the Mets, and Daniel fucking Murphy, of all people, was Superman throughout that whole playoff series for the Mets. Every time he hit 13 home runs in like the playoffs that year.
Right.
The guy hadn't hit 13 home runs in a season in his entire career. He got hot. He was poison for the Chicago Cubs that year. It was brutal. I still hate Daniel Murphy to this day because of that.
I hear you.
He signed with the Cubs for the end, or he got traded to the Cubs for the end of one season, and 2 of my buddies actually spent good money and bought me a Daniel Murphy jersey to fuck with me. That's how much I hate Daniel Murphy. I've only worn it once.
So you're a Cubs fan.
Yeah.
So how do you prep for your podcast? Do you guys watch as much baseball as you can? Do each one of you focus on a team or a division? How do you cover that much sport?
We don't. We don't cover. We're not trying. Like I said, we're shooting for the like kind of everyman. This is you stumbled on a conversation in a bar. These are 2 guys hanging out talking about baseball. So we try to pick what we think is going to be interesting to talk about that week. We've talked a lot about like the San Diego Padres over the course of this year, just because we had kind of jumped on them before the season started as like, watch out for these guys. They're a lot of young pitching, a lot of young talent. Fernando Tatis Jr. is probably really something special. And they've proven that, and they've done a lot of like really cool, and they hit the first team to hit 4 home runs in 4 grand slams in 4 straight games.
Right.
Like, which is a crazy weird thing that happened, and everybody kind of piled on Tatis for swinging at a 3-0 pitch and hitting a grand slam when they were up 7-0 in the 7th inning, or they were up by 7 in the 7th inning or whatever it was.
I remember that.
And so it's just that's been a thing that we'll kind of cruise over. We don't really get into the nuts and bolts so much. Like, if you're looking for
so you guys are like I am. So pure speculation, zero follow up. Let somebody else do the work and make a YouTube video later.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, yeah, absolutely. Because I don't have the time,
right?
For one thing, and I'm not that like. I still, like you said, like you understand football on a level way more than like the average dude watching the game. You can't just shut it off, and you can't just shut off your analysis of the game to watch it and
Correct.
enjoy it.
Which actually sucks. Like, it's when people say that, it sounds like you're bragging, and it's like, no, it sucks. Like, I wish I could just watch let me put it this way. I wish I could watch football the way I watch the World Cup.
Right.
Of soccer. You know what I mean?
I had a buddy who was actually the guy who does the football podcast for my franchise. He's the same way with football, where he's got to break every single thing down. And he got really into hockey for like one season because he had no fucking idea what was going on.
Yep.
He was like, dude, I just watch. Like, I can't even get mad at shit because I don't know if that should have been done differently or not.
Yep.
If everybody boos, I kind of boo too. If everybody cheers, I also cheer.
Yep. And that's why it sucks, is because like the Wild are a joke. It happened again. They somehow made it into the playoffs this year. Fucking, they win the first game. They look amazing in that first game in the playoffs, and then they basically get swept. Fucking Timberwolves are never in it. We finally made it to the playoffs a couple of years ago again. Get swept. So there's nothing to ever watch except for the Vikings, because the Vikings, believe it or not, are pretty competitive most years. Like, we're pretty fucking lucky.
Yeah.
So
I would say so.
And the Twins would be the next thing, because again, they're pretty competitive every year. Since the early 2000s, the Twins have been extremely competitive virtually every season.
Yeah, they've had a few hiccups in the road.
We don't
there.
always make the playoffs. We miss the playoffs a lot, but we're still competitive and entertaining to watch during the season. That's all I'm getting at. So I watch a lot of those sports, and it just fucking breaks my heart every time they lose, especially on the football side. It's so angering. Because it seems so easy and so simple. And I get it, it's not. I get it. These are the highest level thinkers out there in these respective sports. But I mean, Jesus fucking Christ.
When I listen to foot, and this is
it's
part
still
of
not rocket science.
That's what I'm saying, is like and we were conscious of this when we started doing the baseball podcast, was like, when I listen to people break down football games, like the guys who are paid to be like paid analysts, and the guys from ESPN, and the guys from, wherever you get your football news and shit like that, there's a lot of times where I'm like sitting there listening to these guys and going like, you know what, man, this is not what you're making it out to. This is not quite the ordeal you're making it out to be.
Right.
That was a bad route. That was a mediocre throw, and that's all there is to it. Like,
exactly.
The strategies on both sides are not quite as complex as you would have us believe at this moment. And it's the same. I mean, you get the same thing with baseball. You get the like. I tried for a long time to be a like National League purist and be like, fuck universal DH, blah blah blah. You're taking away the strategy of the game. No, you're not. I mean, yes, you are, but you're not getting to enjoy a double switch is not making baseball better because I'm a Cubs fan than if I'm watching a Twins game and they don't have to pull a double switch somewhere in the game.
Sure.
Like, it's not that big a deal.
I get what you're saying.
It just isn't. And that's part of like the trying to enjoy sports again, but still be able to trying to find like harmony in like being able to analyze something and know that it goes deeper than just like, not every interception is because the quarterback's a piece of shit.
Exactly.
Not every
huge,
not every play at second base is because, he made an error. Shit happens.
Yeah.
So I can analyze it, but I can also enjoy it like calmly. I think that's the goal.
Right.
But We also do a lot of like we try to do some like historical stuff on the podcast too.
Sweet.
So like I looked up a bunch of stuff about Lou Brock when he passed away. The week before that, I fucking blanking on the guy's name from the Mets pitcher.
There's a lot of
Tom
them.
Seaver.
Okay.
Tom Seaver had passed away too, and so it was cool to like for me then. That's kind of my bread and butter is like, okay, cool. I'll go look up a bunch of stuff about this guy and I'll find like weird, somebody shared a link on our page that was about a pitcher in like the 1910s who got struck by lightning in the 9th inning of a game. And when he was revived, pitched the last out of the game.
Get the fuck out of here.
So I had to go look up a shit ton on this guy and just be like, okay, well, let's learn more about like how did this really happen? And it's like, okay, that's like a legitimate thing that
cool,
happened.
dude. That's super cool.
Like, turns out he was quite the like party animal too, and
that's probably why he survived.
Just crazy.
That's probably
wild.
why he fucking finished the game too, because he had fucking just enough alcohol running through his veins.
That's right, yeah.
All right, well, let's we just hit 2 hours, 2 hours and 4 minutes. But before we wrap up, I want to get you on a couple baseball things.
Okay.
Twins are making the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They clinched.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that. Yep. So they're definitely making the playoffs. That's not a question. Are they playing at home in that first round?
No, nobody is.
It's all neutral?
The Major League Baseball is doing a bubble. So it's San Francisco and San Diego, and then it's Houston and Arlington.
Smart.
All where the games are played. And the
all outdoor stadiums?
I don't know if that new frightening stadium that they built in Arlington, I don't know if it is. Okay. But all the American League teams are playing in California and the National League teams are playing in Texas.
Oh, okay.
Which means that nobody will have home field advantage at any point, whatever home field advantage is without fans in the stands.
Right.
But you won't be you won't be using your own locker room. You won't be sleeping in your own bed. You will be somewhere on the road.
Interesting. Okay. So what do you think? Do the Twins have what it takes to get past the first round of the playoffs this year, even if it is or isn't the Yankees?
No.
Let's presume it is the Yankees.
I don't know if they have the pitching beyond Kenta Maeda to do it. I don't know if that's and this is going to be different this year, playoff-wise too, because there aren't off days scheduled during a playoff series now because...
So what's it's every day?
It's every day because there's no travel days. And also because they need to wrap it up by November. As part of the, I think, television. And also you got to consider if you've got to get all these games that you've doubled the size of the playoffs almost, you need to get all these games in a certain amount of time. You can't just make up a rain day if you've already got it.
Is the first round still only 5 games?
The first round is 3, I think. And actually, I may have been wrong. I think the first round might be actually being played at home stadiums, and then
because they still have like a play-in game, right? Or did they completely change the format this year?
So it is it's the top 3. It's the top team in each division, the second place team in each division, and then 2 wild card teams. So it'll be the next best 2 records after the top 2 teams.
There's 12
in each
teams
division.
going in now.
Yeah, 16.
Oh, holy fuck! Yeah, because you're right.
Yeah, it's a huge jump for Major League Baseball. So the only way there would be and I don't think they'll even do it because I think
versus what did it used to be 8?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like when we were kids, it was 4
from each conference. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it was. Well, there were 4. I mean, it was 2 divisions per league, and that was it. It was the when I first started watching baseball when I was a kid.
It was the 2 division winners, and that was it.
Yeah,
from each conference or each league.
Yep, and before that, it was you won your league and you went to the World Series. That was all there was to it.
Jesus Christ,
All
right, man. Who's your World Series champion?
Gosh, I want to say that I think the smart money would probably be on LA, the Dodgers. They're just
to finally get it.
They are on paper the best team in baseball. They have the best record in baseball. They were the first team to clinch. There's no reason they shouldn't finally do it. If I'm rooting for a team that's not the Cubs, it's the Padres. I just have a I have a weird
Fair.
fascination with the. I like to see young teams succeed, especially if it's before their time. And I can't do that with the White Sox. I do have a little bit of a.
So who are you really truly picking in the World Series
If I had to put money down, I'd say the Dodgers.
versus?
Let's say Tampa Bay.
Oh, interesting.
I think
Okay.
Tampa,
But
but
LA, Tampa Bay, and LA wins.
I think so.
But you're
Yep.
rooting for San Diego versus.
I'm rooting for Chicago versus I don't care. But if the Cubs aren't going to make it, then I would say San Diego, and probably I would like. Again,
Who do you want to see if the Cubs aren't in it?
I like Tampa Bay, so like I would enjoy San Diego and Tampa Bay, but I would also enjoy seeing San Diego beat the Yankees in the World Series. I like the Cinderella story aspect. I like the Rocky Balboa kind of approach of like the young upstarts beating the.
Well, I'll tell you what, you sold me.
Bad boys.
You sold me. Okay, here's the deal: is I always try to pick some sort of backup team, right? And I usually jump conferences or leagues and try to find somebody who's not the trendy bandwagon thing to jump on. Now, here's the deal: I won a state championship playing for the Dodgers. So I've always had an affinity for the LA Dodgers. Always had an affinity for them. So I'm not going to root against the Dodgers, but I will be rooting for the Padres. How about that?
I dig it.
It'll be fun, man. Hey, let's do this again, dude. Thank you for doing
Absolutely,
this.
man.
This
This
is a fucking
lot of
blast.
fun. Yeah.
2 hours went by a lot easier than you thought, didn't it?
Anybody who is
We
a singer,
could almost do 4.
Anybody who is a singer and has their own podcast is pretty much in love with the sound of their own voice. So.
But you said there's no way I could do 4. I bet you I could get you to do 4 if I really wanted to.
We'll see.
I bet you didn't think this was 2.
Probably not.
It didn't feel like 2.
No.
My franchise podcast. Well, technically, it's my franchise sports. It's in the description. Cold Colors, Grand Machine. Do you have the moving company music up?
No, there's no moving company music. My Famous Mistake, though, you can check out.
And that's on Bandcamp.
Yep, that's on Bandcamp.
Sweet deal, man.
And it's free.
All right, dude. Thanks for doing this, man. This was a ton of fun, dude.
You are welcome.
I was super
Thank you
excited
for
to
having
have
me.
you on. It
That
was a
was
fucking
fun,
blast, dude. We'll do it again. Maybe we'll have a third guy here. I want to start doing more with multiple people now that I got it all figured out. But I'm still rounding out the people I booked as single podcasts, which I booked now like a month out. So
I dig it.
fucking awesome, man. All right, dude. Let's wrap it up. If you guys like the episode, please like, subscribe, share it. Word of mouth is the best promo. If you want to follow me on social media, it's all Jared Singer Live, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I really don't post that much though, so that's the best way to stay up on everything, honestly, is right here on the podcast. Love you guys. Thank you so much.